Warrior Lore. Chapter 2386. What kind of race is this? When little Xingxing's true form appeared, the blood-malevolent ancestor could no longer remain calm. That terrifying aura made him tremble for no reason. Boom, boom. Almost at the same time, another terrifying aura erupted. A dazzling golden light exploded like the sun. It was as if a terrifying lord had been born. The terrifying aura was monstrous. At the same time, Du Xiaoyao transformed into a huge golden ape whose entire body was crystal clear. Mysterious runes surged all over his body, causing the surrounding space to ripple violently. Roar! This was Du Xiaoyao's true form of the redbone horse monkey. Her entire body flowed with multicolored light. Her innate spirit eyes overlooked everything in the world. That mighty aura seemed to be able to sweep through everything. Too terrifying. The surrounding creatures were completely horrified. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. All of them felt their throats dry as they swallowed their saliva. It's actually the redbone horse monkey. Looking at the redbone horse monkey that appeared in front of him, the blood-malevolent ancestor's dragon eyes trembled violently. Such a terrifying dragon and a redbone horse monkey. No wonder they were so abnormal. Old thing, come. Boom. Du Xiaoyao's huge redbone horse monkey body soared into the sky. Facing the bloody aura that swept over like a sea of blood, she suddenly threw out a punch. With a hazy radiance, it was as if the world had just been created. The space before the fist became blurry and distorted. Rumble. Before the fist, a terrifying aura erupted. It carried an inexplicable pressure that wanted to cause one's soul to explode. This kind of power could sweep across and suppress everything. Roar! Roar! Little Xingxing's true form roared. Waves of mysterious runes surged over like a resplendent starry sky. Countless rays of light surged like falling stars, sweeping towards the bloody aura. Whether it was Du Xiaoyao's redbone horse monkey body or little Xingxing's dragon body, they seemed to be completely unaffected by the bloody aura at this moment. Even with Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing's arrogance, they directly used their true forms at this moment. They were not careless at all. Du Xiaoyao and little Star were also aware that this old man was extremely powerful. His cultivation of the peak of the late stage of the sage realm was unfathomable. It wouldn't be easy to deal with him if they didn't go all out. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes and sensed Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing's unconcealed aura of the intermediate stage of the sage realm. His eyes rippled a little. These two fellows hadn't been idle in this fearsome land during this period of time. They had directly broken through a level, and their combat strength had also increased by a large level. It took a while to describe, but in reality, Du Xiaofu also moved at the same time. Golden light erupted from his back, and a pair of golden-winged peng wings appeared. These were the true golden wings of a great rock. When they spread out, their aura soared to the heavens. They were truly one with Du Xiaofu, truly connected to his flesh, blood, tendons, and bones. Boom! At the same time, the green spirit armor covered his body, and the true golden wings of a great rock spread out behind his back. Du Xiaofu truly felt as if he had transformed into a true golden-winged great rock at this moment. He wanted to soar into the sky and cross the vault of heaven. That divine and magnificent armor and the overbearing and disdainful golden wings of a great rock set off Du Xiaofu's entire being, making him look even more majestic and overbearing. Blood-dear old ancestor's countenance couldn't help but change as he was shrouded in the evil blood aura. Intense fluctuations appeared in his eyes. That kind of aura was like that of a true golden-winged great rock. The aura of a supreme beast was incomparably overbearing. Du Xiaofu didn't stop. This blood-dear old ancestor was an even stronger existence than Lei Yang. He quickly condensed a handprint in his hand. Then, ancient runes rippled out from his body, and the outline of the 8 trigrams void pattern quietly appeared above the void. Qin, Kurin, Zhan, Sun, Kan, Li Jin, Dui. 8 directions connected with each other and transformed into a resplendent divine ring. The 8 trigrams void pattern appeared and spread out in all directions. Rumble. The entire firmament quietly trembled. In an instant, The cries of thousands of beasts resounded from within the 8 trigrams void pattern, and resplendent lightning descended. The shadow of a golden-winged great rock flapped its wings. Mountains and lakes formed. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning alternated, and the sun, moon, and stars changed. The 8 trigrams void pattern connected the heavens and the earth and contained all things. It was like a small world had fallen and directly affected the overflowing evil blood aura. What is this? The blood main ancestor's dark and cold blood-red eyes trembled. He was greatly affected by this strange aura. He vaguely felt as though everything was being violently suppressed. An invisible aura that made him shudder surged out from the depths of his beast spirit. Blood dear old ancestor's strength was above Lei Yang's. How could Du Xiaofu be careless? He directly activated the 8 trigrams void pattern. Within the 8 trigrams void pattern, under Du Xiaofu's control, it would not affect Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing too much. In fact, it could even assist Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing in their attacks. Inside the 8 trigrams void diagram, Du Xiaofu was like a true rock in human form. His eyes were fixed on blood-malevolent patriarch, and the killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. This guy actually dared to scheme against Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba and almost killed them. The consequences were unimaginable. Without a doubt, this had touched Du Xiaofu's bottom line. Otherwise, he wouldn't have included the people of Ji family and Yao family. Buzz. Du Xiaofu had no intention of letting blood dear old ancestor go. With a wave of his hand, a purple-gold broadsword with a natural arc and the aura of a tiger and dragon appeared in his hand. A dazzling light erupted like a suppressed volcano, and dazzling mysterious runes soared into the sky. This was clearly the sound of wind and thunder, but it was like the roar of a fiend god, causing one's spirit to tremble for no reason. Boom, boom. As the purple-gold heavenly palace appeared, the ancient world trembled violently. The earth quaked, the mountains shook, and the earth collapsed. The broadsword in the surroundings was distorted, as if destruction was coming. Du Xiaofu activated the purple-gold heavenly palace with all his strength. Without any reservation, purple-gold light bloomed all over the sky. It was peerless in the sky, as if it wanted to spread its wings and soar into the sky. This is a divine weapon. Looking at the purple-gold heavenly palace that no longer held back its power, blood dear old ancestor's heart tightened. He felt that the terrifying broadsword was like a peerless fiend god that had awakened, overlooking the world. It was enough to destroy everything, and it made his beast soul feel uneasy. Swish. Boom. On the 8 trigrams void map, Du Xiaofu was like a deity in the sky, like a real rock in human form. The sword art on the purple-gold heavenly palace in his hand condensed, and a series of complex and mysterious sword light finally gathered together and turned into a simple slash. In an instant, it spread out with the force of lightning. Humph, humph. Blood dear old ancestor snorted coldly. He was also erupting. Bloody aura filled the sky, accompanied by a bright bloody light. There was a terrifying aura that was like an erupting volcano, blocking the sword light. It was extremely shocking. Eowo, Eowo. Du Xiaofu's sword technique was changing. Purple-gold light burst out. The power of the purple-gold heavenly palace was pushed to the extreme by Du Xiaofu. Layers of purple-gold light bloomed, and the phantoms of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise roared out. The splendor of the sword light poured down on the world. Under the brilliance, there was a terrifying and domineering destructive energy. Chi la la, wherever the sword light passed, the monstrous flames were silently annihilated. However, it was precisely this kind of silence that was even more shocking. Such sword light, along with a long spatial crack, could split the bloody aura like a sea of blood and slash toward blood dear old ancestor. Blood dear old ancestor's expression changed. He felt that this human was even more terrifying than the mutated dragon and the red-bone horse monkey. However, blood dear old ancestor did not panic. His cultivation was at the peak of the late-stage Saint Beast realm. In the entire Beast Alliance, he was one of the top experts. The mysterious runes on his body surged into the sky and shattered the sword light again. However, at this moment, Blood Dear Old Ancestor was greatly affected by the 8 trigrams void pattern. Eowao. At the same time, Du Xiaoyao and Little Xingxing's huge bodies crossed the 8 trigrams void pattern. They threw punches, and golden light and golden flames swept out in all directions. Blood Dear Old Ancestor's expression became more and more gloomy. He originally thought that he could easily deal with these 3 juniors. However, after exchanging blows, he realized that in front of the mutated dragon, the human, and the red-bone horse monkey, his cultivation was at the peak of the late-stage Saint Beast realm. He could not gain any advantage. Rumble, facing Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoyao, Blood Dear Old Ancestor's eyes gradually became gloomy to the extreme. He felt that the strange void around him was not good. The aura of this human youth was too complicated. If he wanted to leave, he could no longer be affected. The pair of flesh wings on his back flapped rapidly, bursting with mysterious runes. Bloodlight filled the sky. Vaguely, strange spatial fluctuations appeared around him, shattering many spatial ripples and forming a pitch-black void. It seemed that he was about to break free from the 8 trigrams void pattern. You want to escape. Within the 8 trigrams void pattern, Du Xiaofu was shrouded in the strange phenomena of heaven and earth. The pressure he exuded was so powerful that it could crush everything. His eyes were filled with purple gold light. After a single blow, he once again soared into the sky and charged towards Blood Dear Old Ancestor. "Kid, you're courting death," Blood Dear Old Ancestor roared. Blood Dear Old Ancestor was enraged. The aura on his body was unparalleled. Blood light swept out, and the murderous aura around him was like a sea of blood surging with monstrous waves. A large area of blood light shrouded Du Xiaofu in an instant. When his last word fell, he waved his hand and turned into a streak of blood light that swept out. This streak of blood light pierced through the void, bringing with it a billowing bloody aura that seemed to be able to corrode everything. Swish! As this streak of blood light swept past, the void within the 8 trigrams void pattern also shook. The blood-red light was dazzling and blazing, carrying with it a destructive force. Wherever it passed, the void turned into nothingness, and cracks appeared in the space. Such a streak of blood light would make anyone who looked at it tremble with fear, and their hair stood on end. The terrifying bloody aura, pressure, and energy caused some of the creatures outside to tremble at this moment. Roar! Little Xingxing's enormous dragon body appeared in the sky. He opened his mouth, and dazzling golden flames spurted out from his ferocious mouth. As if it had a natural suppressive force, it directly burned and obliterated Blood Dear Old Ancestor's streak of blood light. Boom! At the same time, Du Xiaofu's body was densely covered with purple lightning. He activated the Thunder Martial Vein, and his figure was like a bolt of lightning as he pounced forward. He raised his arm, and the overbearing fist wave carried the roar of a dragon and the trumpet of an elephant. Accompanied by the power of thunder, it also heavily bombarded Blood Dear Old Ancestor. Blood Dear Old Ancestor was slightly flustered under the siege, but he did not panic. With a cold look in his eyes, he directly punched back. At the place where the 2 fists collided, the space exploded. The runes shattered, and the surrounding void trembled. Thump! Thump! Du Xiaofu's figure was suddenly forced back, and he staggered a few steps back. The azure spirit armor in front of his fist cracked, and faint golden blood seeped out. Rock's chaos-shattering claw. Bang! His fist was injured, but Du Xiaofu stabilized his body, and at the same time, he pounced again without any fear. His eyes were suffused with a purple-gold color. In an instant, his fist turned into a claw, and golden light overflowed. A faint rock's cry could be heard. The claw once again grabbed at Blood Dear Old Ancestor, and the terrifying supreme beast energy caused the void to shatter. "You're courting death." Roar! Blood Dear Old Ancestor bellowed, staring coldly at Du Xiaofu. At the same time, his fist turned into a palm, and his palm carried a terrifying aura. Blood-red light filled the air, and it directly slapped at Du Xiaofu's claw. Bang! Bang! Such a sudden collision was as fast as lightning, and it emitted a dazzling light that illuminated the turbulent void. In an instant, the space around the two of them shattered, and the light shattered. The surrounding creatures who were fighting in the distant void were also shocked, and they were greatly affected. Crack, crack, cracks had appeared on the palm of Ancestor Shwedi's hand, and shallow bloodstains had appeared on it. These bloodstains were difficult to heal. His complexion had turned pale with fright. That punch had left his fist with severe pain and numbness. However, this claw had injured his palm. A human of the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm had injured his body. How could Ancestor Shwedi not be shocked? Du Xiaofu was also forced back again. In the endless, muffled popping sounds, the claw cracked again, and blood flowed out. Boom! Du Xiaoyao pounced again, and fiercely suppressed blood, dear old ancestor. Du Xiaofu slightly stagnated. Strange purple electric arcs gushed out from his shattered palm, and a faint sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then, blood dear old ancestor who was dealing with Du Xiaoyao was horrified. The blood mist in the surroundings didn't disperse, and once again gathered together. The purple electric arcs rippled on the palm of his shattered palm, and then it was restored to its original state. His bare palm emitted a purple-gold color, and the electric arcs fluctuated and covered the strange plumes of armor once again. How can this be? The blood-malevolent old ancestor was moved. All of this was too strange. He hadn't held back just now. 10 ordinary human experts of the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm wouldn't have been enough for him to kill. However, the human in front of him didn't seem to be able to contend against him. However, it wasn't a big problem for him. His body was too terrifying and strange. Continue. Continue. Du Xiaofu didn't stop. The thunder martial vein in his body shone brightly, and a murderous aura spread out. It didn't carry a murderous aura, but it reflected the majesty of creation and the righteousness of heaven and earth. In the vast firmament, with the power to punish all living things, he once again attacked blood dear old ancestor. Heavenly horse violent palm, star-breaking fist, dark yellow emperor's seal, domineering way, holy sword roar, overbearing way of the sword, mysterious soul eye, Sumeru illusion. In an instant, Du Xiaofu quickly attacked. He was powerful and domineering. Under the cyan spirit armor and the golden rock wings, he was like a real rock descending. Every move he made was overbearing and terrifying. He flapped his wings and swept across the sky, suppressing with a domineering force. Du Xiaofu attacked wildly. He was domineering and fierce, and the aura of supremacy swept across the sky, crushing everything in its path. Roar! Little Star and Du Xiaoyao's huge bodies also moved together. The sky was filled with golden flames, and the golden light dyed the sky. It was fierce, and it swept in all directions. Blood dear old ancestor turned pale with fright. He could only respond in a panic. Rumble, rumble. The collision was like thunder in the sky. A series of rune lights burst out, and the rune energy shot out like gorgeous fireworks, causing the whole sky to be dazzling. But behind this dazzling light, there was an astonishing pressure that seemed to be destroying everything. The surrounding heaven and earth trembled. Bastard! Blood dear old ancestor finally couldn't stay calm. His face and eyes were already cold. He shouted ferociously, and the wings on his back suddenly expanded to 100 feet. Bloodlight runes surged out brightly, and violent energy poured out from his body. The bloody aura filled the sky, distorting the void of this part of heaven and earth as if he was controlling the heaven and earth. Rumble! Blood dear old ancestor's figure crossed the void, and his wings spread out for 100 feet. At this moment, bright blood-colored runes erupted from his body, like a rising blood sun. The invisible aura suppressed and imprisoned the surrounding void. Boom! Rumble! His speed was very fast, and the blood aura around Patriarch Blood Malevolent Beast seemed to have transformed into a blood-red net, causing the void to tremble. Tiny cracks appeared in the void, and the ground below crumbled inch by inch, while the boulders were reduced to dust. At this moment, the blood-colored, inescapable net fluctuated, as if it could overturn everything and shake this part of heaven and earth. You want to stop me? Break. Blood-malevolent patriarch bellowed furiously. Pitch-black space cracks spread out in the void around the inescapable net. The 8 trigrams void map emitted a heart-wrenching dark light, causing it to crack and emit dazzling blood-red light. Du Xiaofu felt this, and his complexion turned solemn. This ancestor Shuedi was indeed extraordinarily strong. Du Xiaofu was already at the peak of the intermediate stage of the Sage realm, and he had no problem in contending against an ordinary expert of the late stage of the Sage Beast realm. However, this ancestor Shuedi wasn't simple. The difference between the cultivation of the late stage of the Sage Beast realm and that of the peak stage of the Sage Beast realm wasn't ordinary. The heavens above shake the earth below. The heavenly thunder will not be recklessly broken. Boom. But how could Du Xiaofu allow blood-dear-old ancestor to break free from the 8 trigrams void map? His mind moved, and in the next moment, the 8 trigrams void map surged. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Dazzling runes intertwined, crossing the universe. Thunderbolts descended like heavenly thunder, carrying the purest yang qi, directly blocking and suppressing the blood-colored, inescapable net. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's hand seals continued to condense in his hands. Invisible ripples spread out from his body, and the 8 trigrams void map continued to change, deduce, and derive. Above Kuan and below Li, earth fire bright e-breaks. Boom. Upper heaven and lower Dui, heavenly blessing trigram breakthrough. Boom. Upper Qian and lower Li, heavenly fire and human destruction. As Du Xiaofu condensed one strange handprint after another, the 8 trigrams diagram changed 1,000 times at the same time, and a vast pressure appeared in the void. Rumble. Suddenly, lightning stars appeared in the void of heaven and earth. Raging flames burned, and mountains and rivers moved. The void collapsed, and a destructive aura enveloped this part of heaven and earth. The earth quaked and the mountains shook, and heaven and earth resonated. Dazzling runes were like a sea, and stormy waves rose. Chapter 2387. Under this terrifying momentum of heaven and earth, the inescapable blood-red net was trembling and on the verge of collapse. Olo, Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing naturally wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. They roared and attacked with all their might. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Dazzling runes intertwined and crossed the universe. Blood-malevolent ancestor couldn't believe that 3 intermediate Saint Realm experts were so powerful that they could suppress him. Crack, crack. Under the full suppression of Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing, blood-malevolent ancestor's inescapable blood-red net was actually cracking and being obliterated. Blood-malevolent ancestor tried his best, but he couldn't break free. His hair began to become disheveled. Bastard! Blood-malevolent and cruel in his anger. His ear-piercing voice reverberated in the void. Old thing, I'll suppress you. Crack! Little Xingxing's figure appeared at the same time as blood-malevolent ancestor's ear-piercing voice. He spread his wings and his aura erupted. A dazzling 7-colored vermilion bird phantom emerged. 7-colored divine light flooded the void. Such a vermilion bird phantom was too astonishing. It seemed to have crossed time and space, causing a spatial riot. It was able to crush time and space. Monstrous 7-colored flames burned the heaven and earth. This was the innate ability of the vermilion bird. The pressure that came from the bloodline and divine soul made blood-malevolent ancestor tremble in an instant. Suppress. Du Xiaoyao's huge body appeared in the sky. Terrifying divine power gushed out from her huge body. It contained the energy of heaven and earth. Her body was shining brightly, as if a golden divine fire was burning. She communicated with heaven and earth, blazing and resonating with the firmament. Boom. Crack. Du Xiaoyao struck out with her palm. Golden light filled the sky and turned into a golden 5-fingered mountain peak. It was infinitely huge, like a falling mountain. Wherever it passed, the heaven and earth would tremble. Terrifying energy fluctuations caused the void to surge like waves. Pitch-black, spatial cracks spread in all directions in the sky. Such a palm turned heaven and earth upside down. It was as if stars were shattering, mountains and rivers were turning into dust, and the void was twisting, roar. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's purple-gold celestial tower rumbled again. Bright runes appeared in the sky as he slashed out with his sword. Phantoms of azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, and black tortoise appeared. This sword strike was simple and neat, but it contained an incomparably overbearing aura that abruptly spread out from the sword strike. Wherever the sword light passed, the space collapsed, leaving behind a vacuum as it slashed toward Patriarch Blood Malevolent. Du Xiaoyao crushed the sky with her palm, trying to suppress everything. Du Xiaofu's sword light shattered heaven and earth, and wherever it passed, the void exploded. Du Xiaoyao's vermilion bird phantom burned the sky, and her supreme beast aura crushed the sky. Bang, bang, bang. The three energy beams slammed into Blood Deer Patriarch's body, leaving him with no way to dodge. He could only resist with all his strength. Blood-red light erupted, and a thunderous boom reverberated through the sky, causing the world to tremble. The pitch-black cracks in the void swept out along with the broken runes. Blood-red light filled the sky, and violent energy surged out like a tsunami. After reaching a certain distance, it stopped abruptly. Chi 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 chi. Then, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing's huge bodies retreated amidst the violent energy. Du Xiaofu retreated with his sword in hand. Faint golden blood stains could be seen at the corner of his mouth. Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing also had blood stains at the corners of their mouths, but that was all. At this moment, Blood Malevolent Patriarch's body was also pushed back by the 8 trigrams void diagram. His face was pale. Humph! A muffled groan came from Patriarch Blood Malevolent's throat. A trace of dark red blood slowly seeped out from the corner of his mouth. His expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, only Blood Malevolent Ancestor himself knew that he had suffered a loss under this strange void and the dreadful suppression of that strange dragon. Even with his strength and cultivation base, he hadn't been able to gain an advantage in front of 3 intermediate Sage Realm youngsters. At this moment, Blood Malevolent Patriarch's heart was shaken like stormy waves. This is impossible. It's definitely impossible. Blood Malevolent Patriarch couldn't believe what he had just seen. Not far away in the void, the battle between Du Tingxian and Jitsong, and between Du Xiaojing and Yao Yonghao was only second to the battle between Du Xiaofu's group and Blood Malevolent Patriarch. However, without Jitsong and Yao Yonghao's protection, the Ji family and Yao family's joint attack formation had been destroyed long ago. They were being mercilessly slaughtered by Di Lang, Zhong Yuan, Zhen Xingchun, and Yi Piaoling. My Ji family is not done with you. Jitsong's aura surged. Mysterious runes and talismans intertwined with each other, and a terrifying power swept towards Du Tingxian. He could see that the Rock Emperor's family had no intention of letting them go. His heart was bleeding as the Ji family's disciples were slaughtered one after another. In the blink of an eye, Jitsong's terrifying attack, which could topple mountains and overturn seas, swept through the void and smashed into Du Tingxuan's body. Bam, bam, bam. Countless talismans and mysterious runes intertwined and exploded. Endless energy surged and twisted Du Tingxuan's body. However, at this moment, the lightning talismans and mysterious runes on the surface of Du Tingxuan's body rushed out. The lightning arcs were so dazzling that people couldn't look directly at them. Jitsong was very strong. When he erupted with his full strength, he carried a terrifying might. The scene was shocking, as if he could destroy all living things in the world. However, Du Tingxian stood in the void, his body majestic and unmoving, like an emperor of thunder. Jitsong was stunned. Everything was too inconceivable. His cultivation was clearly higher than his opponent's, who had just stepped into the middle stage Saint Realm, while he was already at the peak of the middle stage Saint Realm. There was a huge gap between them, but his opponent was so strong. Fight! With a thunderous shout, Jitsong urged his vain soul. An ancient strange beast traversed the void, carrying the pressure of the Supreme Beast clan. Accompanied by a vision of heaven and earth, its aura was boundless, and it was suffused with a blazing mist. It pounced on Du Tingxian. Du Tingxian moved. Amidst the eruption of lightning, The lightning spear in his hand directly penetrated the body of the strange beast's vain soul under the horrified gazes of many people. The strange beast's vain soul was shattered. Jitsong spat out a mouthful of blood, as if he had aged dozens of years in an instant. His eyes were filled with complete shock. Qila, Du Tingshuan's figure appeared in the sky. His body was covered with a dazzling lightning armor. Lightning filled the air, and a misty aura lingered on the surface of his body. Even his palm was covered with this lightning armor. So what if you're from the Ji clan? Du Tingshuan's indifferent words were like thunder as they were spat out from his mouth. His hand, which was covered in lightning armor, directly landed on the chest of Jitsong, who was unable to dodge in time. At this moment, Jitsong's expression changed abruptly. He was shocked and regretful. Why didn't he leave earlier? He wanted to see if there was a chance for him to reap the benefits. In the end, all the disciples of the Ji clan were killed. No, Jitsong's eyes were filled with despair. His gaze was filled with unwillingness and madness. A terrifying force began to sweep out in a frenzy. But it was all too late. Du Tingshuan's lightning eyes were incomparably sharp, and killing intent surged out. His hand was filled with lightning, and he gathered the power of the thunder martial vein into a palm. He slammed it heavily on Jitsong's chest. Boom, boom. Under this palm, the void trembled, heaven and earth lost their color, and the lightning was dazzling. Dazzling lightning flashed, and Jitsong's chest was directly blasted open. Blood spurted high into the air, accompanied by arcs of lightning. Jitsong spat out a mouthful of blood. His fearful eyes became a little dull, and then his body fell down, lifeless. Divine Ancestor? No, 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 no. Bang, bang, bang. The few remaining disciples of the Ji clan shouted loudly. The hair on their backs stood up, and a chill swept through their bodies. Some of the old people were heartbroken, and they screamed heartbreakingly. But Jitsong couldn't be more dead. Rumble, almost at the same time. Not far away in the void, Du Xiaojing's eyes flashed with lightning, and thunder rumbled like the sound of the heavens. It was like thousands of war drums were beating at the same time. This was the power of an innate holy sovereign. His eyes were as bright as lightning, and there were ripples of lightning. At this moment, the thunder martial vein covered the surface of Du Xiaojing's body, and his aura was vast and boundless. Rumble, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and purple lightning bolts soared into the sky. The energy of heaven and earth in this area also began to fluctuate violently. Destroy. Bang. Du Xiaojing softly said one word, and thousands of purple lightning bolts condensed into lightning bolts that blotted out the sky. Bang, 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 bang. The purple lightning bolts exploded the void, and the power of heaven was shocking. At this moment, Du Xiaojing was like a goddess. Monstrous lightning bolts swept across the sky, and his purple sun-like eyes shot straight into the vast sky. The terrifying power of heaven and earth shook the sky, and the power of heaven and earth gathered. Rumble, rumble. Heaven and earth trembled and roared. The ground collapsed, and strange phenomena appeared. This aura was too terrifying, and it made the entire space tremble. My life is over. Yao Yunghao finally said such a sentence. His martial vein spirit was destroyed. Under such power, his eyes were trembling, his heart was trembling, and his divine soul was trembling. His body was limp. If you don't break through to the late-stage Saint Realm, you won't be my opponent. Du Xiaojing's graceful figure strangely appeared in front of the pale Yao Yunghao. The supreme aura suppressed the heaven and earth, and the thunder martial vein killed in all directions. The sword in his hand fell, and the heaven and earth trembled, and it pierced into Yao Yunghao's glabella. Swish! With his glabella pierced, Yao Yunghao's body exploded in horror, and his soul was destroyed. Divine Ancestor! The remaining members of the Yao family were in complete despair at this moment. After killing Yao Yunghao, Du Xiaojing stood in the void and did not attack again. She was like a dazzling sun that blotted out the sky, and purple lightning bolts circled around her body. She looked at the sky to one side, where the most intense battle was taking place. Du Tingxian did not attack again. Yi Piaoling, Qianguyu, Jinxingchun, and Old Lei were enough to deal with the remaining people. Roar, roar. Blood malevolent, she swept out like a storm. Then, he activated his true body. It wasn't very big, only a few 100 feet tall, which was smaller than little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao. It had a ferocious beast head like a human face. There were horns on its forehead, and its eyes were bright and spirited. Its nose was protruding, and its teeth were as sharp as saws. A pair of fleshy wings spread out, and its body was covered with dark red scales that were the color of dried blood, emitting a dazzling light. At this moment, Blood Malevolent Ancestor's true body was surging with terrifying blood chi, especially the pair of fleshy wings behind his back. Mysterious runes swept out like clouds in the sky, and blood light covered the void, drowning the heavens. Roar, roar. Blood Malevolent Ancestor's roar was like thunder, shocking the soul. The blood chi runes on the surface of his body swept out in all directions like a tsunami, causing the 8 trigrams diagram in the void to tremble and the void to rumble. Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoyao looked at each other. They all knew that this was Blood Malevolent Ancestor's true strength. But at this moment, whether it was Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, or Du Xiaoyao, there was no fear in their eyes. Instead, there was a cold fighting spirit. In an instant, the three of them seemed to have an absolute tacit understanding. The three of them soared into the sky and surrounded Blood Malevolent Ancestor in a triangular formation. Boom! In an instant, a dazzling electric arc swept out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. All of this happened in a flash, faster than lightning. Boom! Boom! At this moment, above the initial stage, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The electric arc between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows turned into thunderbolts that blotted out the sky and earth. The thunderbolts were of various colors, overflowing with pressure and dazzling brilliance. Rumble, in an instant, the light of thunder and lightning flooded the void. The lightning runes were densely packed and illuminated the void. The electric arc was dazzling and the lightning runes were densely packed and illuminated the void. In the midst of the thunderbolts, a huge redbone horseape rushed out, releasing a violent and destructive pressure. Rumble. Silver-gold thunderbolts swept out and covered the 8 trigrams diagram in the void. Pulse soul, primordial spirit, 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 thunder, or such a strange, complicated, and terrifying aura shocked Patriarch Blood Malevolent eyes. Boom, boom. But Du Xiaofu did not give Blood Malevolent Ancestor time to be shocked. Above the 8 trigrams diagram, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, turning into thunderbolts that blotted out the sky and earth. These thunderbolts were of various colors. There were earth-shattering thunderbolts, soul-destroying thunderbolts, grating sky thunderbolts, and so on. There were a total of 5 types of spiritual thunderbolts. Roar, roar. The redbone horseape roared. Its eyes seemed to contain 2 golden suns. Silver-gold radiance spread out and poured out in all directions. Du Xiaofu used the redbone horseape's primordial spirit and pulse soul. Back when he dealt with the thunder goat, Du Xiaofu did not use his pulse soul. But now, facing Blood Malevolent Ancestor, Du Xiaofu did not hold back and used his full strength. Thunderbolts exploded, overturning the void, causing the world to lose its color and the universe to shake. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit and the redbone horseape's body were not only primordial spirits, but also pulse soul. As it roared, the huge redbone horseape's body exploded with golden light, and spiritual eyes looked down on the world. The redbone horseape's pressure was like the beginning of the world. It swept out in all directions, wanting to turn the universe upside down and shatter it. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit and pulse soul was definitely not inferior to his physical body. It was equally perverse. In an instant, it enveloped Blood Malevolent Ancestor. Chapter 2388. Attack! Attack! Little Xingxing was already prepared. His dragon eyes rippled, and a black tortoise divine shell suddenly covered his huge back, emitting a deep light. His enormous dragon body stood upright, and an extremely dense pressure spread out. In an instant, the entire sky seemed to tremble. The demonic third eye between little Xingxing's brows suddenly opened after the enormous dragon body lifted its head. A glaring light pillar that caused one's soul to tremble shot into the air. It spread like a light curtain and covered the front. A spiritual might that blotted out the sun also spread across the sky. Ao, 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 ao. Suddenly, as dragon roars resounded, several azure dragon phantoms appeared between little Xingxing's third eye. They carried a strange soul power, like a pure soul attack. Even Du Xiaofu was stunned. Suppress this old fellow.
Attack.
At this moment, Du Xiaoyao's entire body had transformed into a huge, five-fingered mountain peak, erupting with the aura of the beginning of the world. The dazzling talisman patterns on the five-fingered mountain peak evolved, as if they had been given life. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The golden five-fingered mountain peak's phantoms emitted golden light, and its sound was like the sound of wind and thunder. Dense spiritual energy spread out, connecting with the energy of the world. A terrifying power spread out, immediately suppressing blood malevolent ancestor. The huge five-fingered mountain peak was still expanding, surging with pressure. Roar, roar. Under such a siege, blood malevolent ancestor's eyes trembled fiercely. He let out a deafening roar, and blood light filled the sky. His ferocious aura surged, wanting to overturn the five-fingered mountain peak to resist the azure dragon phantoms and dazzling lightning. However, Du Xiaofu's spiritual lightning vein spirit, little Xingxing's azure dragon soul, and Du Xiaoyao's real body all erupted to the extreme, and they all had the strength to fight against those above their level. Du Xiaoyao's golden five-fingered mountain peak's phantoms constantly evolved with the aura of a king. It was inviolable, like a supreme being. Its pressure was surging, as if it could crush all things in the world. It continuously suppressed blood malevolent ancestor. Little Xingxing's azure dragon soul directly crushed blood malevolent ancestor's beast soul. That kind of pressure affected the bloodline, and could not be resisted or expelled. Du Xiaofu's numerous types of spiritual lightning and meridian souls suppressed and destroyed everything. At this moment, blood malevolent patriarch couldn't escape at all. Moreover, Du Xiaofu's void 8 trigrams diagram was still affecting him. Beat this old thing up. Suppress him. Little Star wasn't finished yet. A dazzling ink-black rune light rushed out from behind him. Suddenly, an illusory beast shadow roared like a dragon. Ow! This illusory beast shadow was as black as ink, dazzling to the eyes. It was over 10,000 feet in size, and its entire body was covered in scales. Its entire body was black as ink, and it intersected with a tortoise snake. It was as if it was alive, and it brought with it a tremendous pressure. Rumble. This majestic power spread out, and even the space began to distort. Spatial ripples spread out in all directions, causing the space to tremble. Suddenly, a terrifying energy came from all directions. A strange energy began to gather, and the terrifying energy emitted from it caused spatial cracks to appear in the surrounding void. This terrifying energy was not inferior to the azure dragon soul at all. Asterisk bang, 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 asterisk bang. Within this ink-black beast shadow, there was a terrifying energy that swept out. Some of the beasts that were running for their lives in the distance, starting from the weakest beasts, had their bodies explode one after another. Monstrous blood mist rained down, and not even their bones were left behind. Miserable screams and wails rang out endlessly. The entire void was in chaos. The chaotic battle covered the sky, and it was vast and mighty. Du Xiaofu was like a true rock in human form. Purple-gold electric arcs rippled around his body, and his hands were still forming seals. Lightning surged in his eyes, and they were like two bright suns that illuminated the vast sky, overlooking the earth. Just a late Saint Beast. Fight! Fight! When the last seal was formed, Du Xiaofu's surging aura reached its peak. Suddenly, like a volcano, it burst out from his body, and countless lightning bolts shot into the sky around him. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk in an instant, purple lightning filled the sky, and countless purple lightning bolts condensed into a purple-gold lightning giant rock. The giant purple-gold rock hovered in the sky, and its entire body was purple gold. It covered the sky and the sun, and it was filled with an overbearing and destructive aura. Asterisk coup. Asterisk the purple gold lightning giant rock screeched, and its voice seemed to pierce through the firmament. Purple electric arcs raged in the vast sky, and the lightning bolts were tens of thousands of feet long. Like a purple gold sun in the sky, it flapped its wings and swept toward Blood Malevolent Ancestor. Blood Malevolent Ancestor, who had already sunk into chaos, had unknowingly started to ripple violently in his blood-red eyes. He soared into the air and stared at the purple gold thunder rock. The terrifying pressure caused his beast soul to tremble. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk the giant purple gold lightning giant rock flapped its wings and soared into the sky, crushing everything. The purple gold lightning giant rock screeched, and purple gold electric arcs shot out from its eyes. They were like two bright suns that illuminated the vast sky, overlooking the world. Its fierce aura spread out, making the entire space tremble. This was the combination of Du Xiaofu's golden-winged rock clan's beast energy in the lightning martial vein. Its aura was tyrannical and murderous. These attacks were all extremely abnormal. Blood light rippled violently in the depths of Blood Malevolent Ancestor's fierce eyes. His eyes were fierce and gloomy to the extreme. Blood fiendish aura that resembled fresh blood surged and was unleashed. It was as though a sea of blood demon had descended upon the world, intending to crush and destroy all the attacks that were coming at him. However, at this moment, whether it was Du Xiaoyao's original body, Little Xingxing's two terrifying techniques, or Du Xiaofu's spirit thunder and purple gold lightning giant rock, they were all extremely tyrannical and did not evade. This was the most direct collision, without any fancy moves. It was the simplest and most domineering collision. Lightning raged, and the five-finger mountain was like 100,000 mountains falling into the mortal world. The azure dragon and black tortoise phantoms traversed the void, and the bloody aura was like a storm. Such a collision, with such power, could almost destroy the heavens and the earth. A pitch-black, semicircular light arc appeared at the point of collision, annihilating everything. Roar! Blood Malevolent Ancestor roared and used his full strength. Blood-red light filled the sky, and his flesh wings covered the sky. They flapped continuously, shaking heaven and earth, and causing pitch-black spatial cracks to spread above the void. Screech! Screech! The purple gold lightning giant rock flapped its wings, and a mighty and domineering aura swept out. Its entire body was covered in purple gold lightning arcs, which gathered into a huge purple gold thunderbolt. The tyrannical and destructive energy swept out like a raging tide, constantly crashing into Blood Malevolent Ancestor. Bang, 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 bang. Within the Void 8 trigrams diagram, strange phenomena were occurring continuously. The heavens and earth rumbled, while the blood-fiendish chi around Patriarch Blood Mane was exploding continuously. It was as if numerous blood-colored volcanoes were erupting, a scene that was extremely shocking. Such a fierce battle made Du Tingxian and Du Xiaojing involuntarily retreat. Their eyes were filled with shock. "Old man, I'll kill you." Little Xingxing's huge body rushed out again. The wings on its golden body spread out, and its aura erupted. Another resplendent, seven-colored vermilion bird phantom emerged, accompanied by seven-colored divine light that flooded the firmament and the void. Little Xingxing once again activated this terrifying technique, which seemed to be able to affect the space. It was as though it had crossed time and space, causing the space to riot. It was able to crush time and space, and the monstrous seven-colored flames burned the void. Buzz! Buzz! Within the huge purple-gold lightning giant rock phantom, Du Xiaofu's figure suddenly appeared. He held the purple-gold heavenly palace in his hand, and wind and thunder rumbled. His purple-gold eyes were solemn under the cover of the green spirit armor, and there was a strange sword technique quietly condensing. Along with the gathering of the energy of the heavens and the earth, layers of strange fluctuations silently appeared in the space. As the sword technique condensed, above the purple-gold heavenly palace, rays of light shone brightly, and electric arcs fluctuated. Layers of strange fluctuations in the surrounding space were invisibly connected with it, and talisman mysterious runes intertwined. Sword breaks 10,000 miles. Buzz. In an instant, Du Xiaofu flapped his wings and swooped down from the purple-gold lightning giant rock's body. The purple-gold heavenly palace in his hand slashed down like a real rock, and the sword light fell from the void like lightning. Whoosh! When such a sword swept out, there were mysterious runes fluctuating, and the space seemed to ripple. A silent pitch-black crack appeared in the void, and instantly spread into the blood-red light that was like a sea of blood. This sword was too strange, and there was an invisible force that disrupted the void. This kind of spatial power was not the spatial power that an ordinary Saint Realm cultivator could control, but the true essence of space. It was the profound meaning of space. The entire void 8 trigrams was in complete chaos. All kinds of energy collided, and the light was so dazzling that it drowned out everything. Powerful energy permeated from it, causing the sky to shake violently, and there were dragon roars and sonic booms. Under the attack of Yi Piaoling, Di Lang, Zhong Yuan, Xin Xingchun, Bing Toad, and the others, the surrounding creatures had all been killed. There were very few who had escaped the net, and they had already fled far away. Yi Piaoling and the others had no intention of chasing after them, so they let a few creatures escape and avoid a disaster. Yi Piaoling, Di Lang, and the others raised their eyes. They were attracted by the shocking battle in the void. Their eyes trembled violently, and their spiritual souls trembled. They were already saints, but at this moment, they deeply felt that they couldn't even be affected by the shockwaves. Those 3 monstrous geniuses were actually so terrifyingly strong. What's going on? Someone seems to be on a killing spree. Are they fighting for the Phoenix True Egg? Rumor has it that the Ant Emperor Supreme and the humans have appeared here. Don't get close. That's a super expert fighting. This battle had once again attracted the attention of many living beings and experts in the surrounding space. However, no one dared to approach. They just watched from afar. Just the aura of destruction that permeated the air at this moment was enough to make their hearts tremble with unease and fear. Rumble. On the 8 trigrams diagram in the air, terrifying energy ripples suddenly swept out like stormy waves. The surrounding space was about to be destroyed, and a pitch-black halo vaguely appeared. It was so dark and deep that it made people look at it from afar. Their eyes were filled with coldness. Everyone could only see from afar that several kinds of dazzling energy were madly corroding each other. They were constantly releasing violent energy, trying to suppress and destroy each other. Walala! Finally, the corrosive energies in the sky above the chaotic void began to be annihilated at the same time. Even the 8 trigrams diagram in the sky was completely overturned. The terrifying energy storm gradually dissipated under the shocked gazes of many people in the distance. Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing's original body were both pushed back as they spat out a mouthful of blood. Du Xiaofu's redbone horse monkey primordial spirit body also staggered back. Du Xiaoyao's golden 5-fingered mountain peak was pushed back, and she once again transformed into the redbone horse monkey primordial spirit body. Blood was flowing from the corner of her mouth, and the light on her body was much dimmer. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air. There were many cracks on the azure spirit armor on his body, and blood was flowing out. Little Xingxing's huge golden body also had some injuries. Chi-la-la, the blood-malevolent patriarch's original body appeared in the void. The bloody light was dim, and there was a sword mark on his terrifying wings. Half of his right wing was cut off, and the remaining half was still attached to his flesh, preventing the right wing from being completely separated. Roar! Staring at the 3 figures in front of him, the blood-malevolent patriarch roared angrily, and a cold light shot out from his fierce eyes. He was a late Saint Beast, close to the peak Saint Beast realm, but he was seriously injured by 3 juniors. Originally, the blood-malevolent patriarch didn't put anyone in his eyes. He didn't need to be afraid of anyone except for the patriarchs of various great clans and beast clans, let alone these juniors. Although these juniors weren't simple, they were still no match for him. But now, blood-malevolent ancestor had a real fear in his heart. A human, a dragon, and a monster were too abnormal. They were unbelievably strong. All of them had the cultivation of intermediate Saint Realm, but each of them had the strength to contend with an advanced Saint Beast Realm expert. When these three monsters joined forces, he couldn't gain any advantage over them. The blood-malevolent patriarch was very sullen, but he also began to be afraid. In the fierce battle just now, he had almost fought with his life on the line, but the three of them didn't seem to be affected much. Their injuries weren't as serious as his. Boom! The void fluctuated, and lightning surged. Seeing that Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoyao were injured, Du Xiaojing and Du Tingxian moved together with Little Xingxing. They activated their thunder martial vein and were ready to join the battle. The blood-malevolent patriarch was stunned, and his fierce eyes flickered. He had been spying on them. The middle-aged man and the human woman were also very strong. Although they were at the mid-Saint realm, they still had the battle strength to contend with opponents who were at a higher level. Especially the woman. She might be a legendary innate Saint Master. The blood-malevolent patriarch knew that he couldn't gain any advantage when dealing with these three abnormal experts. Moreover, there were two more extraordinary experts, and he was already severely injured. Brat, this isn't over. I will never let you go. The blood-malevolent patriarch gritted his teeth. As his words fell, his broken wings shook the sky, and his huge body shrunk rapidly. He turned into a bloody light, tore the void in front of him, and left in an instant. Old man, don't run, Little Xingxing shouted. However, he couldn't catch up with the blood-malevolent patriarch. They didn't have the strength to stop the blood-malevolent patriarch if he wanted to leave. Du Xiaofu was also very surprised. He hadn't expected that the blood-malevolent patriarch would turn around and flee without any hesitation. Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao had transformed into their human forms. Their complexions were very pale, and their bodies were riddled with scars. Blood was hanging from the corners of their pale lips. However, they looked very happy. The three of them had forced the blood-malevolent patriarch to flee. Du Xiaofu's situation wasn't much better. He looked at Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. The three of them were aware of this. During this period of time, each of them had made a lot of progress. Their fighting strength had also made substantial progress. Even if they were alone, each of them had the strength to fight against an ordinary expert of the late stage of the Saint Beast realm. Then, Du Xiaofu put away the red horse monkey vein primordial spirit and looked around at the messy battlefield. Not many creatures had managed to escape. The people of Yao family and Ji family had also been killed. Even Ji Qianxing and Yao Tianwu of their families had been killed by Du Xiaojing in the thunder martial vein. Du Xiaofu had no intention to deal with the Ji family and Yao family, so he had asked them to leave. However, they still wanted to fish in troubled waters. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to be impolite. This matter concerned Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaohuang. Seeing the two little fellows heavily injured and almost killed, this had already touched Du Xiaofu's bottom line. Everyone, listen up. If anyone dares to have any ideas about the Phoenix True Egg, kill without mercy. Looking at the creatures in the distance who were watching from all directions, Du Xiaofu's voice was mixed with Xian Qi and echoed in the void. This is not a place to stay for long. Let's go. Then, Du Xiaofu and the other figures also broke through the void and left, disappearing from the messy void. Half an hour later, Du Xiaoyao found a place to hide. In the desolate ancient space, everyone met again. Zhen Qingchun, Qian Guyu, Yi Piaoling, Du Tingxian, Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, and the others hadn't seen each other for a long time. Naturally, they had some things to talk about and were all very happy. Dilang, Zhuoyuan, and Fei Yu stood to the side and looked at Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, and Du Xiaohuang. They were secretly smacking their lips. Such a terrifying family, any one of them was abnormal. During the battle, Du Xiaofu already knew everyone's progress. Yi Piaoling, Qian Guyu, and Zhen Qingchun had all stepped into the Saint Realm. This kind of progress could be said to be not small, and he was very happy. Du Xiaofu didn't find it strange that his alcoholic father and sister Du Xiaojing had also reached the middle stage of the Saint Martial Realm. Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao's breakthrough didn't surprise Du Xiaofu at all. It was only natural. However, Du Tingxian, Elder Lei, Du Xiaojing, Ouyang Shuang, and the others were shocked by the progress of Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba. Even Du Xiaofu was shocked. However, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but scold Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba for sneaking into the desolate ancient space. However, when he saw the two's scarred appearance, he felt very distressed. I've seen School of Vertical and Horizontal, Legalism, School of Famous and others together, but I've never fought with them, Du Tingxian said. Not long ago, he saw Hui Wu and the others, but Hui Wu and the others seemed to feel that they had no chance of winning, so they didn't fight. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes, but he didn't care. With his current cultivation strength, if he encountered Hui Wu and the others again, even if they were all together, he would directly kill them to avoid future troubles. Originally, the update was completed today. This was written last night. 3 chapters, adding up to 14,000 words. Today, a total of 32,000 words were updated. The update was completed today. Chapter 2389. Moksha, Jialo Jueju, and Imo Ling have also appeared. Moksha seems to be much stronger than before, and Jialo Jueju and Imo Ling have also stepped into the saint stage. Du Xiaojing said. She had met Moksha, Jialo Jueju, and Imo Ling, but had never fought them. They were all on guard. At the mention of Moksha, Du Xiaofu's heart sank. Now that the 9 purple lightning profound cauldrons had fallen into the hands of the devil religion, as well as Jialo Jueju, his grandmother, Jialo Maluo, and adoptive father, Jialo Changtian, had been worried. Although they did not say it, Du Xiaofu could feel that their wish was for Jialo Maluo to one day be able to sever the devil bone and return to the clan. After hesitating for a while, Du Tingxian said to Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaojing that Imo Ling might be related to our Du family. He's very mysterious. I keep feeling like he's someone familiar. Next time we meet, we can check it out. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Imo Ling had the Thunder Martial vein, so he naturally had something to do with the Du family. This is it. I don't know what it is, but they said it's the Phoenix True Egg. Du Xiaohuang took out a palm-sized oval-shaped object that was suffused with 7-colored light. It looked like an egg, but its entire body was crystal clear. Boom! When this object appeared, a powerful aura spread out, causing Fei Yu, Lai Diao, and the others to change their expressions. Little Xingxing's eyes lit up as he took the object from Du Xiaohuang's hand. After carefully examining it for a while, a ray of 7-colored light gushed out from his hand and swept into it. Sizzle! Instantly, layers of dense talisman markings appeared on the mysterious object. It was as if flames were overflowing from them, and they drew out a special pattern. That's right. It's the Phoenix True Egg. Then, little Xingxing withdrew the 7-colored light in his hand and said regretfully to everyone, however, this Phoenix True Egg is a half-dead object. Half-dead object? Hearing this, everyone was puzzled. Naturally, they did not mean little Xingxing's words. Everyone knew that little Xingxing and the Phoenix True Egg. This Phoenix True Egg is from the ancient Phoenix True Egg. It is from ancient times, but for some reason, it has suffered great damage. For some reason, it has suffered great ancient Phoenix True Egg. Xingxing's. And little Xingxing frowned slightly. His eyes moved slightly before he said, however, it's not like there's no chance at all. The Phoenix clan has the talent to be reborn. If we can find the true essence blood of the Phoenix, there might be a chance for the Phoenix egg to recover and hatch. The blood in your body should be related to the Phoenix clan. Is that possible? Du Xiaofu looked at Little Star. If he could make a real ancient Phoenix hatch, it would be a big deal. Little Xingxing rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu helplessly. He pouted his lips proudly and said, Father, my blood may be much more powerful than the essence blood of the Phoenix, but this is the true egg of the Phoenix, and it's been heavily injured. My blood is useless against it, so it'll probably destroy this half-dead egg. I need the true essence blood of the Phoenix. I see. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Finding true Phoenix blood essence shouldn't be an easy task, not to mention using true Phoenix blood essence to repair a true Phoenix egg that might not even hatch. Most people wouldn't take such a risk and waste such a precious treasure. This Phoenix True Egg is a half-dead object, but there is still a chance for it to hatch. Father, I must find phoenix blood essence to repair it, Du Xiaohuang said. She had special feelings for the Phoenix clan. When she obtained the Phoenix True Egg, she had also obtained great benefits, so she hoped to repair and hatch it. Okay, Father will help you find the Phoenix blood essence. Du Xiaofu patted the back of Du Xiaohuang's head and smiled. Although this little girl rashly sneaked into the fierce ground, but thinking about it carefully, experts had always grown through tempering. If she didn't enter this fierce ground, she probably wouldn't have been able to reach the early stage of the Saint Beast realm. Thinking of this, he no longer blamed her. If it was him, why wouldn't he make the same choice? Afterward, Du Xiaoba took out a page of scripture and gave it to Du Xiaofu. His Vajra Buddha was comprehended from it, and he had obtained great benefits from it. This might be related to Buddhism. It should be a supreme cultivation method of Buddhism. Unfortunately, it's incomplete. After Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, and the others carefully studied it, they returned the page of scripture to Du Xiaoba. For them, although this supreme cultivation method of Buddhism was extraordinary, it was only incomplete. There was no need to spend more time to study it. They already had powerful means and profound meanings, so they understood the principle of biting off more than they could chew. If there is a chance to find this cultivation method in the future, it will definitely not be simple. You can study it well. Du Xiaofu said to Du Xiaoba. He felt that this page of scripture was not simple. It might have a great origin. Afterward, after chatting with everyone for a while about their own experiences and tempering, Du Xiaofu and the others went into the desolate ancient space to heal their injuries and recover. In this battle, Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoyao were the ones with the heaviest injuries. They were also exhausted to the extreme. Little Xingxing was no exception. He had used several terrifying means, and that kind of consumption was too great. Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba's injuries were also very serious. If it wasn't for blood malevolent ancestor wanting to keep them alive, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The time in the desolate ancient space allowed them to heal their injuries without worrying too much. After taking a lot of precious medicines, Du Xiaofu adjusted his breathing. His body was shrouded in layers of golden radiance, and he continued to comprehend the void-slashing three swords in his mind. The void-slashing three swords was related to the profound of space, which aroused Du Xiaofu's interest. If he could make further progress in the profound of space, he might be able to successfully comprehend the void-slashing three swords. At this moment, the incident in the Sky Flame Death Valley had spread to every corner of the ancient, desolate, ominous grounds like a storm. The sovereign Ant Emperor who had obtained the Phoenix True Egg was actually the mysterious Rock Emperor's daughter. Many experts from the Yao and Ji families were killed, and many experts from the Beast Alliance were killed. That family of murderers had killed nearly 20 Saint Realm experts, including those from the Yao, Ji, and Gulen Heavenly Condor clans. In the Sky Flame Death Valley, corpses were strewn everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. When such news spread, everyone was shocked and trembled. The Rock Emperor is still alive, and he hasn't died. The Rock Emperor has a large family by his side, and they are all terrifying experts. I heard that the Rock Emperor and his people might have come from the outside world. Don't think about the Phoenix True Egg anymore. That family is too terrifying. I heard that the blood-malevolent patriarch of the Ro Owl clan was defeated by the Rock Emperor and his family, and he fled miserably. Really? The blood-malevolent patriarch is a super expert, and he seems to be close to the peak of the late-stage Saint Beast realm. That's too scary. Is the Rock Emperor's family all freaks? Discussions were everywhere, and no one dared to think about the Phoenix True Egg anymore. Since the blood-malevolent patriarch had fled, who would dare to think about it again? The atmosphere was bleak, and the valley was deathly silent. In front of a deep valley, a figure covered in a hood and cloak stood in front of a huge rock. Blood aura rippled, and in front of him were a dozen shriveled corpses, as if their blood essence and souls had been sucked out, leaving behind only shriveled flesh. I didn't expect Du Xiaofu to be so strong. Another figure stood silently beside the hooded figure. He was also dressed in a hood, and his figure was tall and slender. His eyes were glowing with a terrifying grayish-white light. Humph, We are no longer the same as before." Hearing this, the figure raised his eyes slightly, and his eyes glowed with a terrifying light. "We can't be careless. Du Xiaofu still has the Violet Dragon Emperor and the red-bone horse monkey Du Xiaoyao by his side. His sister, a natural-born Saint Venerable, isn't easy to deal with." The figure spoke slowly and raised his hand to take off his hood, revealing a rather young face with an extraordinary bearing. It was none other than Chen Yin of the Profound Talisman sect. "They have many opponents, and the transition of the Great Tribulation is coming soon. I'm afraid they won't be able to jump around for long." The figure's voice was faint. He raised his head slightly and took off his hood. His golden hair fluttered in the wind, and his complexion was slightly pale. However, he still exuded a majestic aura, and his eyes were gorgeous. It was Dongli Chihuang. "Of course, his good days won't be long." Chun Yin sneered. His laughter was gloomy and eerie, and it echoed in the valley. "I really hope we don't have to endure anymore." Dongli Chihuang gazed at Chen Yin, and his eyes emanated a terrifying glow under the veil of night. "It'll be soon. It'll be soon. Our opportunity is about to arrive." Chen Yin gazed at the deathly silent space as he spoke, and cold light shot out from his eyes. "Du Xiaofu, I'm still alive. I really hope we can meet soon. I'm slightly impatient to see your surprised expression." Dongli Chihuang sneered without end while the baleful aura on his body fluctuated, and it caused winds to surge and black clouds to cover the sky. It was like a peerless devil had been born into the world. Time flowed by slowly within the ancient, desolate space. Numerous halos of profound energy fluctuated while figures were cultivating within them. Talisman markings were changing, and their auras were powerful and surging. Crack. Unknowingly, the golden halos around Du Xiaofu's body slowly disappeared. He opened his eyes, and a slight smile appeared in his eyes. He stood up and stretched his waist. The joints in his entire body emitted cracking sounds, and the surface of his body faintly emitted a faint purple-gold glow. It was as if every tiny cell and hair on his body contained terrifying energy that could erupt with astonishing might at any time. Comfortable. As Du Xiaofu stretched his waist, a mouthful of turbid air followed along his throat and spat out. His entire body had an indescribable feeling of comfort, and the injuries on his body had completely recovered. Du Xiaofu clenched his fists and felt the powerful, profound energy within his body and the energy within his cells and muscles. It seemed that he had made some progress in this battle, and this was an unexpected gain. After this battle with blood-malevolent ancestor, Du Xiaofu began to have some ideas in his heart. If he were to encounter Lei Yang alone next time, he would have the strength to fight back. At least, he wouldn't have to run away anymore. Feeling the recent progress, Du Xiaofu's face also revealed a smile. This feeling was really good. "Dad." "Xiaofu, Rock Emperor." The surrounding figures also retracted the halos on their bodies, got up, and stopped cultivating. Qingguyu, Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, Yi Piaoling, and Du Tingxian didn't have any injuries to begin with, and they had all recovered. Even with the abnormal strength of Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing, they had also completely recovered. However, Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba were still cultivating. These two little guys were seriously injured this time. Fortunately, it didn't affect their foundation. Du Xiaofu turned his head and looked at Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba who were still cultivating. He didn't blame them anymore and was gratified by their progress. This kind of tempering is not bad for them and will bring them endless benefits in the future. Zheng Qingchun couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. At Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba's age, they had already set foot on this stage. This kind of talent was really abnormal. One must know that when Du Xiaofu was the same age, he was far inferior to them. "Little Ba, this kid is a good seedling. If his father knew about this kid's current cultivation base and opportunities, he would definitely be happy," Du Tingxian said, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. Du Xiaofu smiled and looked at Du Xiaoba. This kid was not only talented, but more importantly, he was ambitious. Among the peers of the Du family, he could be considered the number one. "Xiaoba kid, I'm afraid that among the peers of the Sanlu Kyushu and the 9 great clans, no one can be his opponent," Ouyang Shuang's red lips moved slightly and smiled. With Du Xiaoba's age and strength, among the 9 great clans, the dragons and the phoenixes, there was no one who could be his opponent. Sister Shuang, have you forgotten about Du Xiaohuang? Dai Xingyu faintly said and smiled at Ouyang Shuang. This? Ouyang Shuang was stunned. Her peerless face was filled with helplessness. She rolled her eyes at Dai Xingyu and said, Xiaohuang is an exception. Her situation is special and can't be compared to her. Haha, everyone laughed when they heard this. Di Lang, Zhong Yuan, Fei Yu, and the others continued to click their tongues. I don't know when this ominous ground will close. Rumor has it that the most mysterious place in this ominous ground is the Sky Burial Deathland. It contains the world's greatest secret. Jin Qingchun slightly raised his eyes and said, outside of the Sky Flame Death Valley should be the entrance to the Sky Burial Deathland, Du Tingxian said. He had already heard some news. Let's go to the Sky Burial Deathland. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone and smiled. The Sky Burial Deathland was the most mysterious place in this ominous ground. Rumor has it that in the ancient times, a part of the world was buried there. Even saints who entered there couldn't return. It was a dangerous place, but there were also people who had obtained great fortunes. Hearing this, Qian Guyu, Yi Piaoling, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing and the others smiled knowingly. Now that Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba were fine, the next step was naturally to go to the Sky Burial Deathland. They had all heard that the Sky Burial Deathland had the blood essence of true dragons and true phoenixes, as well as supreme beasts like true dragons and true phoenixes. There were also treasures left behind by the ancestors of some extremely ancient and heaven-defying races. These races weren't much weaker than the dragons and phoenixes. Everyone should have gone to the Sky Burial Deathland. Be careful, Du Tingxian said. He knew that Du Xiaofu already had a lot of opponents in the Sky Burial Deathland. Among the Beast Alliance and the human race, there were even stronger experts like Blood Malevolent Ancestor. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly, understanding the meaning of his drunkard father. There were indeed many direct opponents. Now, there was the addition of the Ji clan and Yao clan. Moreover, there was a high possibility of encountering them in the Sky Burial Wasteland. The path to the Sky Burial Wasteland was filled with dangers, and ordinary people wouldn't be able to traverse it. Hence, those who could enter the Sky Burial Wasteland were all experts with extraordinary strength. However, Du Xiaofu naturally wouldn't miss the Sky Burial Deathland. He also wanted to obtain some benefits. It was as if something was calling him from the unseen world. Every time the Sky Burial Deathland was mentioned, his heart would tremble for no reason. If you encounter someone who wants to cause trouble, don't be courteous, Du Xiaofu said. If they encountered people from Yu family, Ji family, distant Sky Flame Phoenix clan and the others, they wouldn't have any scruples as long as there was a chance. Understood. Understood, master. Understood. Pai Yuan, Di Lang, and the others nodded in agreement. They naturally understood Du Xiaofu's words. The meaning behind his words was that if they encountered those people and had a chance to win, then they didn't need to worry about anything and could directly attack. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He wasn't too worried. He judged that if they encountered those people, Yu family and the others wouldn't be courteous to him. Therefore, he didn't need to be courteous to them. If there was a chance, he would strike first to gain the upper hand. Then, he left Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaoba in the ancient desolate space to heal their injuries. Du Xiaofu, Little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoyao left the ancient desolate space and headed towards the Sky Burial Deathland. Along the way, Du Xiaofu roughly explained everything that had happened in the Sky Burial Deathland. He told everyone about Du Xiaoqing and Little Tiger's situation, which shocked Du Tingxian, Elder Lei, and the others. And from the mouths of Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Tingxian, and Big Brother Jin Qingchun, Du Xiaofu also learned a lot about the other situations in this Deathland. After everyone had separated, they had all encountered dangerous tempering, but also had great opportunities. There seems to be some movement in front. Suddenly, Du Xiaoyao stopped as she discovered something. Then, she sped up and flew away. Everyone's expression changed slightly as they followed behind. They all knew about Du Xiaoyao's talent. After a while, in front of the mountains, there was a misty mist. The mountain ridges rose and fell continuously, revealing the vicissitudes of life. The top of the mountain was dark red, as if it had been dyed red by blood. It was filled with killing intent, and there were many auras of living beings. When Du Xiaofu and the others appeared here, rumbling sounds could be heard from time to time, and strange vortexes appeared in the void. Countless auras in the surroundings began to awaken, and the auras of living beings began to fluctuate. Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, and the others appeared. At this moment, they restrained their auras and became unusually steady, making it difficult for others to detect them. Chapter 2390. Translator. H2DH2, Mr. The living beings in the surroundings were all focused on the front, and not many of them noticed Du Xiaofu's group. There were still many living beings in the surroundings who were attracted over. It seems like something is about to be born. Du Xiaofu looked at the mountain peaks around the mountain range and felt the countless auras in the surroundings. He was also a little surprised. Among them, there were quite a few powerful auras, and it seemed like something was about to explode from the spatial vortex in front of them. Rumble. Before Du Xiaofu could finish his sentence, a loud clap of thunder resounded. Suddenly, the void whirlpool in front of them emitted a slight wave of energy. As the wave got closer, it became stronger and stronger. All the creatures in the surroundings immediately raised their heads and stared at the void whirlpool in front of them. Rumble. Rumble. Immediately after, another thunderous roar rang out, and the spatial vortex began to ripple violently. Suddenly, the entire space in the sky started to distort rapidly. Chi 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 chi. It was also at this time that a shocking aura spread out from the spatial vortex, and the distortions became so intense that they surged, emitting a whirring sound like that of a tornado. As the sound of this energy spread out, the spatial vortex's fluctuations had already reached a terrifying level, as if the entire world and the mountains were also trembling. It's opened. Rumble. An ancient cave dwelling must be opening. Rumble. At this moment, all the gazes in the surroundings were focused on the spatial vortex. That terrifying aura made everyone feel extremely oppressed, and an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation spread out, as if a monstrous ferocious beast was about to awaken, causing everyone's hearts to tremble for no reason. What a powerful aura! It seems like déjà vu. Du Xiaofu stared at the spatial vortex in front of him, but a solemn expression appeared in his heart. Under such a terrifying aura, there seemed to be another terrifying aura that seemed familiar. Everyone, be careful. Rumble. Faintly feeling uneasy, Du Xiaofu said to Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaojing, and the others beside him. Something doesn't seem right. Be careful. Rumble. Du Xiaoyao seemed to have sensed something as well. She spoke softly to the crowd. Her golden spirit eyes did not show any signs of carelessness. As the space fluctuated, the surrounding experts stared intently at the vast spatial vortex in front of them. It seemed that something was about to open. Many of them seemed to have been waiting here for quite some time. Numerous heated gazes were focused on the distorted spatial vortex. Most of the people's breathing had become a lot rougher. Clearly, they were extremely nervous. Given the commotion, it was likely that some great treasure was about to appear. This aura is terrifying. Where have I seen it before? Du Xiaofu's heart grew increasingly solemn. The aura emitted from the distorted space in front of him felt increasingly familiar, causing him to feel inexplicably uneasy. It was as if a huge rock was pressing down on his body, making it difficult for him to even move. Boom, boom. Once again, there was a loud bang above the void. The distorted spatial vortex suddenly trembled. Then, there were bursts of whirling sounds. Suddenly, an even bigger spatial vortex appeared. This huge spatial vortex had endless light swirling out. It was like a spatial wormhole that appeared in front of everyone. When this spatial vortex appeared, the light was dazzling. Mysterious runes flickered, as if it had crossed time and space. It was like a great path to the heavens that pierced through space and traversed this ancient world. The spatial vortex was bottomless. It was shining brightly. The space trembled and ripples spread out. An ancient aura spread across the sky. Within this spatial vortex, The aura that made one's heart palpitate became more and more intense. It made Du Xiaofu feel increasingly uneasy. "It's open, quickly go in." "Go." Many figures rushed into the sky. Profound chi surged. Demonic beasts appeared and fierce birds flapped their wings. A series of wind-breaking sounds rang out as they directly entered the spatial vortex. "It's open, everyone go. Go. There must be a great treasure inside. It's finally open. Don't let others beat us to it. Go." In an instant, dazzling figures flashed in all directions. With earth-shattering, wind-breaking sounds, they rushed towards the distorted spatial vortex in front of them. The scene was extremely spectacular. Many pairs of eyes were red and fiery. This was the ancient, desolate, ominous ground. Everyone wanted to obtain an opportunity. There are dangers, but there are also opportunities. Be careful. Not far away in the air, an old man from one of the major powers was staring at the dazzling spatial vortex with a blazing light in his eyes. There were simply too many secrets hidden in this strange, ancient, desolate, ominous ground. There were dangers, but there were also opportunities. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, those figures moved. They were all looking forward to it and entered the spatial vortex in front of them. Be careful. Whoosh. On a mountain peak not far away, there were many figures from another force that rose into the air and quickly entered the spatial vortex. Whoosh, whoosh, a woo. The demonic beasts roared and their figures moved like lightning. Du Xiaofu stood in the distance and watched the figures that flashed past in all directions. He could not help but exclaim in his heart. The auras that were being released were all absolute experts. There were also several auras that had clearly reached the Shang stage. It was likely that many top experts, who were hiding themselves, were among them. Any activity in this ancient, desolate, fearsome ground would attract these experts. "Father, are we going in?" Little Star asked Du Xiaofu. Seeing that almost all the people around had moved, he did not expect that the treasures would fall into the hands of others and the opportunities would be obtained by others. "Don't worry, the treasures will not belong to whoever goes in first. The dangers will definitely be encountered by those who go in first." "Yes." Du Xiaofu slightly raised his eyebrows. He felt uneasy and did not dare to enter rashly. The treasures depend on opportunities. Whoever goes in first will not be able to obtain the treasures. Little Demon Du faintly smiled and slightly waved his fist. Whoever's fist was harder, the treasure would belong to that person. Zongyuan, Elder Lei, Qinguyu, Yi Piaoling, and the others were about to leave, but when they heard Du Xiaofu's words, their expressions changed slightly. They couldn't help but sigh inside. This was actually a kind of mental fortitude. To be able to remain so calm in the face of such a disturbance was already extraordinary. After a while, all the figures in this area had entered the spatial vortex. There seemed to be nothing special. Du Xiaofu frowned and was a little puzzled. Could it be that he was thinking too much? Let's also go in and have a look. Be careful. There are many ancient formations and great formations in this ominous ground. There are also many strange things. Be careful. Yes. Du Xiaofu said. There were dangers, but also opportunities. Since they were planning to enter, they naturally could not miss it. Let's go. Then, with a frivolous look, a golden light flashed under Du Xiaofu's feet. His figure immediately entered the spatial vortex. Be careful not to get separated. Yes. Du Tingxian said softly. He leaped up and his profound energy surged. His figure immediately turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed toward the vortex. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaojing, and the others swiftly shot up. Their profound energy trembled as their bodies were enveloped in light, and their figures transformed into numerous blurry afterimages that were like bolts of lightning as they directly flashed into the spatial vortex passageway. With a leap, Du Xiaofu's figure took the lead and directly entered the spatial vortex. He was secretly vigilant and did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. Walala! In the surroundings of this strange, wormhole-like vortex passage, talisman runes flickered. Its aura was ancient, and space rippled. It was as if it was in another space. Be careful. As soon as he entered the spatial vortex, Du Xiaofu felt a huge suction force pulling him into the depths of the vortex. This huge suction force was extremely powerful. Even with his cultivation, he was almost unable to control his body in this strange spatial vortex. Sensing this change, Du Xiaofu was secretly shocked. The profound energy in his body quickly surged out and was wrapped in golden light. Only then did he stabilize his body. But then, Du Xiaofu's expression suddenly changed. At this moment, the spatial vortex in front of him was flickering with light. A broken talisman rune began to appear. The light alternated between bright and dark, carrying an ancient aura. It was as if it contained an ancient aura. Not good. It's that kind of killing intent. Du Xiaofu turned pale with fright. He finally remembered that this aura was the same one he came into contact with in an ancient restriction not long after entering the ancient desolate ominous grounds. In the end, he was lucky to escape. At this moment, this aura was exactly the same as the aura in the ancient restriction. That kind of aura was boundless and could affect the soul. Oh woo! Sure enough, in just a moment, the vortex in front of him rippled violently. The roar was like thunder, and then a figure quickly rushed out. Poochie. A figure seemed to be in an incomparably sorry state. It was as if he had been sent flying upside down, spitting out dark red blood. There were fierce birds and beasts galloping, but before they could escape, they were directly pierced by the strange energy from the vortex and killed. Swoosh, swoosh. The energy was like thunder, mercilessly killing, and a few creatures that were rushing out were killed again. Whoosh! A figure rushed out. His wide robe was torn, and he was in a sorry state. His aura was powerful. It was the leader of one of the forces that had entered this vortex not long ago. When the old man rushed out, he saw Du Xiaofu at first glance. His eyes turned blood red, and strange runes fluctuated. He directly rushed towards Du Xiaofu and the others, waving his claws. He was fierce and merciless. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. He had encountered such a situation before. This old man was already affected by the murderous aura. This murderous aura could even directly increase one's strength. His attack was also straightforward. He directly raised his hand and slapped forward. In an instant, a golden light swept out. Bang! Bang! The old man was directly smashed by Du Xiaofu. The surrounding air in the vortex was compressed and directly exploded. The space was distorted and shattered, and the golden runes rippled out. Then, the surrounding space exploded like fireworks. Retreat! Quickly retreat! Du Xiaofu shouted, and his figure rapidly retreated. Bang! Bang! The surrounding void vortexes started to crack, but it was too late. The surrounding void vortexes had already started to crumble. A terrifying murderous aura whizzed out from the front, sweeping out like a storm. That terrifying aura was capable of destroying everything. Father, be careful. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaojing, Du Tingxian and the others did not retreat. Instead, they moved forward and appeared beside Du Xiaofu. Their qi turned into a light curtain that gushed out, blocking the storm-like killing intent. Protect everyone and retreat quickly. Du Xiaofu shouted softly. The blue spirit armor and the golden rock wings on his body were instantly deployed. However, the surrounding void had already been distorted. This wormhole-like vortex had become blurry. A terrifying murderous aura had poured out along with countless energy ribbons. This aura was capable of corroding one's soul and destroying everything. In fact, it was powerful enough to destroy an ordinary expert of the initial stage of the Sage Realm. Boom! The golden rock wings on Du Xiaofu's back spread out, and golden light burst out, blocking the killing intent for everyone. Roar! Almost at the same time, little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao struck out together. The 8 golden arts surged with starlight, blocking the killing intent up ahead. Du Tingxian and Du Xiaojing struck out to protect Ouying Shuang, Dai Xingyu, and the others behind them. Rumble. The spatial vortex channel directly collapsed. The terrifying killing intent was endless, and it was not something that regular Saint Realm cultivators could block easily. A tremendous devouring force surged out as well, affecting Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and even little Xingxing. who did not fear the effects of the soul at all. Bang, bang, bang. The surroundings exploded into chaos. Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing blocked most of the killing intent, so they were greatly affected as well. When the spatial vortex channel collapsed in the end, the terrifying devouring force swallowed the three of them. In a daze, Du Xiaofu saw a vast void in front of him. There was a terrifying whirlpool spinning like a nebula. There were faintly visible cracks in the surroundings, allowing one to see a corner of it. There was a vast land, pitch-black mountain ranges, incomparably huge white skeletons, and vast and boundless broken walls and ruins. There was also an extremely terrifying killing intent. Du Xiaofu had seen all of this in person before. Now that it had appeared again, Du Xiaofu could not help but tremble with the power of his soul that contained the Scarlet Nightmare Monkey's bloodline soul and several spiritual Thundersoul seeds. Coupled with his cultivation, he could not help but tremble. His soul trembled, and a feeling of extreme danger permeated from the bottom of his heart. Rumble. The surrounding space was still collapsing inch by inch. The spatial vortex channel had completely been reduced to nothingness. Spatial cracks filled it. "Get out of here, quick!" Du Xiaofu called out to Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing. The terrifying nebula vortex was just too terrifying. Once they were sucked in, the consequences would be unthinkable. Their only chance right now was to escape from the collapsing spatial crack. They only had one chance. Boom! Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao became completely stern amidst their shock. They hurried towards the collapsing spatial crack before them. The three of them erupted with their full strength, entering just before the nearest spatial crack closed. The spatial crack behind them closed, and the terrifying nebula vortex in the corner of the world that had appeared vanished. The devouring force had vanished as well. Within the spatial crack, Du Xiaofu observed his surroundings. The surrounding space was fluctuating with white spatial ripples. If it was any ordinary living being, they would have been crushed by the pressure. Fortunately, with the cultivation of the three of them, they were fine in this space. However, the crisis just now had left the three of them in a state of shock. It's gone. Within the spatial crack, there was a violent energy fluctuation. The spatial energy fluctuation in front of them had also become intense. "Tear open the spatial crack. Let's get out of here first," Du Xiaofu said. With a wave of his hand, golden light surged and tore open a spatial crack in front of them. As the crack appeared, there was a faint, dazzling light in front of them. At that moment, the three of them immediately flew out. As the three of them appeared, their field of vision suddenly widened. A vast space appeared before their eyes. White fog lingered in the surroundings. There were majestic and boundless mountains, surging with waves of majestic waves. "What is this place?" Little Xingxing stared at the space and looked around. At that moment, he was extremely shocked. As for Jin Qingchun, Old Lei, and the others, they had already disappeared. "No matter where we are, we should still be in the ancient, desolate, fearsome ground. This place is extraordinary. Be careful. Be careful." Within this space, Du Xiaofu could faintly sense a pervasive, dangerous aura. This aura was faintly discernible, and it made Du Xiaofu extremely wary. He was also worried about his drunkard father, Jin Qingchun, Ouyang Shuang, and the others. He hoped that everyone was fine. Moreover, most of the killing aura had been blocked by the three of them. With his younger sister, Xiaojing, and his drunkard father around, Du Xiaofu estimated that everyone should not be in too much danger. Only then did he feel relieved. There seems to be something strange in here. Du Xiaoyao's golden spiritual eyes moved slightly. At this moment, he could feel an aura in this space that made him unable to escape. "Where are we going now?" Immediately after, little Xingxing looked around and asked Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao, "Let's go to the left." Du Xiaofu looked around and pondered for a moment. Since they did not know where to go, they should leave this place first. The three of them leaped up and their profound chi surged. Their figures instantly disappeared from where they were, turning into three streams of light. In the next instant, they were already in the distant space. Although the space here was dark, there were additional white clouds above the space. The area was boundless and vast. Half an hour later, Du Xiaofu and the other two landed on a mountain peak. Then, They looked around. "Father, look over there," little Xingxing shouted as she discovered something. Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing followed her gaze and looked ahead. At this moment, there was a place covered by white clouds in front of them. The white clouds lingered in the space, and a majestic mountain was faintly discernible in the white clouds. Chapter 2391. As the three of them looked carefully, they were pleased to see that it was a towering mountain that stretched across the world. It was majestic and boundless. There were sharp peaks on the mountain. Looking at it from afar, they could see lush greenery. It was completely different from the bleak and desolate lands that they had seen along the way. "There's life," Du Xiaofu exclaimed. The mountain walls in front of them were steep, and there were also rivers. The rivers surged and were full of vitality. "Let's go in and take a look," little Xingxing said. "Be careful." The three of them were still in shock from the great danger they had just encountered. They did not dare to be careless at all. With a leap, they had already reached the edge of the towering mountain. Looking up at the towering mountain in front of them, they were even more shocked. This mountain was no different from the outside world. It was just more majestic in comparison, like a primitive mountain range that no one had set foot on before. "It seems a little special. Let's go in and take a look." "Okay." Du Xiaoyao's eyes moved as if she had discovered something. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The three of them flew up the mountain in a flash and carefully entered. Bang, bang, bang. Whoosh. The three of them had just entered the mountain when they heard violent sonic booms in front of them. There are people fighting. Their auras seem very familiar. Du Xiaoyao looked at the sky in front of her. She had already noticed that there were familiar auras in the low sonic booms in front of her. "Let's go see." "Okay." Du Xiaofu also felt it. His expression changed instantly. Under the sharp power of his primordial spirit, he could sense that there were many familiar auras in front of him. In the mountain valley, there were dozens of figures fighting fiercely in the shade. Not far from them, there were several people watching the battle. They seemed to be extremely confident that victory was in their hands. Rumble, rumble. Low sonic booms resounded. Violent energy surged and blazing runes intertwined. The momentum was extremely shocking. In the fierce battle, a young man in a divine battle robe slashed through the air with his palm and blasted an opponent away. The shockwave blasted open a layer of the surrounding ground and sent debris flying. But then, a middle-aged man appeared and waved his hand. Starlight rippled around the young man's body. He looked extraordinary. Waves of mystical chi spread out from his body. The multicolored light around his body was like a rotating star. This was a type of spirit. At the same time, a starlight armor covered the young man's body. He looked extraordinary and majestic, like a holy spirit, noble and proud. A vast chi gushed out, covering the sky and covering the earth. However, the middle-aged man was too strong. Even though the young man used his meridian spirit, he was still forced back by a single palm strike. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Rumble! The young man gritted his teeth with a serious expression on his face. He formed a seal with his hands, and the mysterious runes on the talisman soared into the sky. Like the surging of stars, it transformed into a giant tree that appeared in the void. This tree was resplendent, sparkling, and translucent. Its canopy covered the sky and the sun, and its leaves were like stars swirling in the sky. All of a sudden, it was as if this world had suddenly fallen into the night sky. Pressure surged, and only the shadows of the stars in the surroundings were densely covered in light. There was a galaxy hanging in the sky, and a vast chi covered the sky and the earth. "Kill!" The young man shouted and unleashed all of his strength. His eyes were like the brightest stars in the sky. He activated his martial veins and martial spirit. They swept out together, as if he was pushing the stars in the sky. His aura was terrifying and monstrous. It was as if a river of stars was collapsing, and the vast chi suppressed all directions. This vast power caused the middle-aged man to reveal a look of astonishment. However, his cultivation was far superior to the young man's. Dazzling runes appeared in the void and turned into a net of light, binding and suppressing the star tree. A terrifying aura filled the air, connecting with the power of heaven and earth in the surrounding void. He crossed the void and appeared in front of the young man. He swung his arm, and a red palm came out from his wide robe and instantly slapped the young man's chest. Bang! The young man was suppressed and could not avoid it. His body was sent flying, and blood spurted out from his mouth. Be careful. Not far from this majestic young man, an old man who was over 50 years old was also fighting fiercely with his opponent. The starlight around him was like a river of stars falling from the sky. One could faintly see that his eyes were like the two brightest stars on his face, deep and sharp. However, at this moment, he was also being suppressed by an old man and could not gain the upper hand. You can't even protect yourself. In the fierce battle, the opponent of the old man wrapped in starlight spoke. It was an old man who looked like he was in his 50s. His skin was slightly pale, and he was wearing a long robe. His eyes coldly stared at the old man wrapped in starlight. At the same time, his hand directly distorted the void, sealing all the escape routes of the latter. The old man wrapped in starlight had a dignified expression. At the same time, a palm was condensed in his hand. Under the palm, the surrounding space suddenly seemed like stars falling from the sky, and the void solidified. Although it's not bad, it's a pity that your cultivation is too weak. The old man in his 50s coldly shouted, and his palm changed. Suddenly, a majestic chi was triggered, and a palm hit with a loud bang. Bang! Bang! As the two palms collided, a deep sonic boom resounded. The palm of the old man, which was wrapped in starlight, only lasted for an instant before it was shattered. The starlight scattered, and a faintly discernible pitch-black spatial crack appeared in the air. His body directly staggered back, and a stream of blood shot out from the corner of his mouth with a poochie sound. The treasure is not something that you outsiders are qualified to compete for. Bang! A cold shout suddenly sounded from the old man's mouth. Profound chi violently surged out, causing the entire sky to tremble. His figure was as fast as lightning as he violently rushed towards the old man who was currently staggering back. A frightening might suddenly swept out. Chi! Chi! The old man's face changed. In a short moment, the chi in his hand gushed out, and the energy of heaven and earth gathered and shrouded the surrounding space. The light was like a falling star, instantly wrapping around him, and the whole space solidified. Bang! Bang! At this moment, the old man in his 50s fiercely hit the star-like light with a palm print condensed by the mysterious energy of the talisman. With a slap, a hole was directly blasted in the space, and the starlight of the whole space was directly shattered. Poochie! The old man's figure was also suddenly sent flying, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth again. His face was as pale as ash. Chi-la! Immediately after, the old man in his 50s once again surged with his chi, and a bright and fierce energy suddenly burst out from his hand and rushed toward the old man. Die! At the same time, the powerful middle-aged man also surged with killing intent, and a punch directly exploded toward the young man. The young man and the old man were both very strong, and there were no weak people around them. Unfortunately, these opponents who were besieging them were even stronger, and they were already using their full strength, but it was still difficult to resist. Chi! But at this moment, the sound of wind breaking suddenly came from the void, and then a purple stream of light and a golden figure instantly appeared in front of the young man and the old man. The purple stream of light disappeared, and a purple-robed young man appeared in front of the young man. His arm shook slightly, and he clenched his fist, directly shaking the space ripples and rushing out, and like lightning, collided with the fist that was exploding toward him. Chi! Chi! When the two fists collided, the former's fist instantly shattered inch by inch and continued to spread to his shoulder. Uffed! The middle-aged man didn't seem to have recovered from his shock as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Their eyes met, and when he saw the face of the purple-robed young man, his expression changed greatly, but at this moment, he was completely unable to move. The entire space was distorted and solidified, and the profound energy in his body was completely stagnant. Following a deep sonic boom, his face turned pale, and his eyes were filled with extreme shock. Once again, he spat out a large mouthful of blood mist from his mouth, mixed with broken internal organs, and his body directly exploded into a bloody mist. Bam! At the same time, in front of the old man, a golden figure appeared and directly collided with his opponent's fist. Golden light erupted, and an imposing aura spread out in all directions. The former was also directly shattered in the explosion of the void. Elder Chi. Many people who were watching the battle in the distance were suddenly horrified. There were figures who immediately rushed towards the purple-robed young man and the golden figure at the same time. Profound energy surged in their hands, turning into sharp energy ribbons, and directly attacked like lightning. These several attacks were extremely powerful, and when they were launched at the same time, the momentum was also extremely powerful, piercing through space. You're courting death. Chi. The moment these people rushed out, a slightly tender voice sounded, and a small figure directly rushed out from the void. It was so fast that only a blurry shadow could be seen, and spatial ripples spread out from its body. Chi. Chi. Golden flames gushed out, burning the void, and spatial cracks spread out in the surrounding void. In just an instant, these several experts were turned into ashes amidst bone-chilling screams. The terrifying destructive power of the high temperature caused people's spirits to wither, and the people who were fighting in the surroundings retreated one after another. In an instant, 3 figures appeared. It was Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing. As for the young man and the old man, who were still in shock, when they saw the sudden appearance of the 3 people, their faces were filled with shock. Then, joy surged into their faces. The several people who were being besieged immediately retreated, their eyes filled with wild joy. Brother-in-law, Rock Emperor, the young man and the old man called out, and their faces lit up with joy. The 2 of them were Qi Jiajun and 7-star ancestor from the school of Yinyang. Du Xiaofu smiled. He didn't expect them to be from the school of Yinyang, and it was Qi Jiajun and 7-star ancestor. No wonder he felt such a familiar aura. Rock Emperor. At this moment, the dozens of people who were besieging the school of Yinyang retreated, and their faces changed when they saw Du Xiaofu suddenly appear. They had already received the news that Ji Qianxing, Jizong, and the others had been killed not long ago. Now that they saw Du Xiaofu in front of them, it was easy to imagine how shocked they were. Looking at the situation, some people were calling him brother-in-law, and these people seemed to be from the same family as the Rock Emperor. Ji family. Du Xiaofu looked at these people and was slightly surprised. He recognized a few of them. He had seen them before in front of the sacred hall. They were actually from the Ji family. What's going on? Du Xiaofu looked around. The people from the school of Yinyang were all injured, and Qi Jiajun and 7-star ancestors' injuries were not light. There were also a few experts from the school of Yinyang on the ground, but the Ji family seemed to have suffered some losses. Qi Jiajun told Du Xiaofu, "We found a saint medicine, but we didn't expect to meet these people, and then we fought." Du Xiaofu slightly shifted his gaze towards the people from the Ji family and waved his hand. "Let's go." Hearing this, the remaining people from the Ji family looked at each other with pale faces. They seemed to be somewhat puzzled. "Great Rock Emperor, you killed my Ji clan's experts like this, treating us as nothing. Are you trying to shake the entire Ji clan? We won't let you off." After a short moment of astonishment, an old man gnashed his teeth and glared at Du Xiaofu. This Rock Emperor really dared to kill people from the Ji family, and several more were killed. At this time, he was furious, but he didn't dare to move. "Killing your Ji family's people is your own fault. I gave you a chance."
Yes.
Du Xiaofu coldly stared at the old man with a calm expression. The corner of his mouth curved into a cold arc as he said, "I will still give you a chance. You better leave now, or I don't mind making sure that none of you can leave today."
Yes.
Rock Emperor, you better remember this. Our Ji family is definitely not without people. At this moment, the old man's eyes were red and his expression was gloomy. He didn't dare to attack Du Xiaofu again. In front of absolute strength, he didn't dare to say anything more. The others from the Ji family were still in shock. Although they were full of hatred, who would dare to provoke the Rock Emperor? They knew that none of them were his match. "Let's go."
Yes.
The old man from the Ji family glared at Du Xiaofu coldly, then hurriedly left. He didn't dare to doubt that if he provoked the Rock Emperor again, the Rock Emperor would kill them all. This was absolutely not a joke. Seeing the Ji family leaving like dogs, the experts from the Enyang school were all very excited. Rock Emperor, many thanks. Thank you. The 7 stars old ancestor came to Du Xiaofu's side and bowed to express his thanks. He secretly sized up the auras of Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing and was shocked. How long had it been? These 3 monsters had probably reached a terrifying level again. Thank you, Rock Emperor. Thank you. The experts from the Ji family were all very happy and bowed respectfully. Everyone is too polite. Thank you. Du Xiaofu cupped his fists and nodded to everyone. Looking at the Enyang school's lineup, only Qi Jiajun and the 7 stars old ancestor were present. Qi Yeshi probably wasn't with them. As his voice faded, Du Xiaofu's gaze turned towards a mountain peak on his left. Halfway up the mountain, there was a rich aura of elixirs. In the midst of the verdant mountain stream, there was a lotus-like flower blooming halfway up the mountain. It was dark green with a tinge of blue and had 9 petals. 9-star soul lotus. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. This was the 9-star soul lotus, a sacred medicine-level treasure. It wasn't an ordinary sacred medicine and was extremely beneficial to beast souls. That's the 9-star soul lotus. We found it first. We didn't expect those people to want to snatch it, so we fought. Blood. Qi Jiajun wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and followed Du Xiaofu's gaze. He said, "Thank you, brother-in-law. This sacred medicine is brother-in-law's. Blood. You guys found it first, so it naturally belongs to you."
Yes.
Du Xiaofu patted Qi Jiajun's shoulder. He enjoyed being called brother-in-law, but he didn't dare to take his brother-in-law's things. All right, thank you, brother-in-law. Qi Jiajun smiled embarrassedly and didn't stand on ceremony. He plucked the precious medicine and happily put it into his Qinkuan bag. After that, Du Xiaofu asked about everyone's situation and focused on Qi Yeshi. However, after Qi Jiajun and the star-old ancestor were separated from Qi Yeshi, they didn't meet again. This made Du Xiaofu slightly worried. After all, this fearsome ground was too dangerous. After that, Du Xiaofu asked about Qi Jiajun's surroundings and was surprised to find out that they were already inside Burial Deathland. Is this the Heaven Burial Deathland? Du Xiaofu was shocked. He didn't expect to enter Burial Deathland directly after coming out of the spatial crack. Of course, don't you guys know? Then how did you guys come in? Qi Jiajun looked at Du Xiaofu with a surprised expression. It's a long story. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Qi Jiajun was helpless and didn't ask further. He said, but this is only the outer area of Burial Deathland. Many experts have already entered. After pausing for a moment, Qi Jiajun looked at Du Xiaofu and said, not long ago, we met legalism, dragons, and the others. However, we only met them from afar. Dragons, legalism. Du Xiaofu smiled and didn't pay too much attention to it. After that, Qi Jiajun, the star-old ancestor, and the experts from the school of Enyang left. These dragons, legalism. I'm afraid there aren't many famous people left. If we meet them, we'll just kill them directly. Seeing the people from the school of Enyang leave, little Xingxing pouted and said, we'll talk about it when we meet them. Du Xiaofu nodded with a smile. The dragon race, the school of famers, and the school of legalism were still together. It was clear that they had no intention of letting the matter rest. In that case, he would have to make the first move to gain the upper hand. The Ji family seems to be very strong here. There's also the Yao family. We need to be careful. Du Xiaoyao frowned and said to Du Xiaofu, they're not weak, indeed. Du Xiaofu knew that the Yao and Ji families weren't ordinary. Ji Tsong and Yao Yonghao weren't the strongest existences in the Ji and Yao families. There's nothing to worry about. Little Xingxing smiled. Now that we're working together, we don't need to worry even if we meet a late-stage Sage Realm expert. After pausing for a moment, a sliver of coldness flashed through little Xingxing's eyes. He said, there's no need to worry about the school of legalism and the school of famers. If we can break through a little more in this danger zone, we won't have to worry even if we come across those old people who have emerged from the tomb of eternity once we leave. You little girl. Du Xiaofu smiled. But he also knew that if the three of them could break through again and step into the late-stage sage realm, they would indeed have the strength to fight those people from the eternal tomb. Not to mention, they still had Huole Laozu. Du Xiaofu was looking forward to it. However, Du Xiaofu knew that the terrifying existences of the devil religion weren't easy to deal with. Even East Deity, Nanru, and Huole Laozu couldn't do anything to the demon god. Chapter 2393. Father, I wonder how Lady Zixuan is doing.
Father.
Little Xingxing couldn't help but miss Lady Zixuan. He had always been closest to Zixuan. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. That beautiful woman also appeared in his mind. They had been entangled since the beginning in Stone City. Don't worry. I believe everyone will be fine.
Father.
Du Xiaoyao smiled and suddenly said mysteriously, let's go look for opportunities.
Father.
As his voice fell, Du Xiaoyao flew out. It seems to be here.
Father.
In an instant, Du Xiaoyao's figure landed in front of a canyon not far away. The entrance was covered by bushes, as if no one had ever set foot here. Du Xiaoyao, what is this place? Little Xingxing's figure landed, and his gaze also fell on the canyon. He was quite curious. I don't know either, but this place should be a little special. Du Xiaoyao's brows rose slightly. He just felt that this place was special. Why can't I feel it? Little Xingxing carefully probed with his mind, but didn't find anything special. This is Du Xiaoyao's talent. You can't compare. Du Xiaofu patted Little Xingxing and smiled. Du Xiaoyao's talent was incomparable. Hearing this, Little Xingxing looked around. After a while, his expression changed and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. I can also see that this place is a little strange. The energy of heaven and earth is much denser than the surroundings.
Haha.
Haha, this place is even more verdant than the surroundings. As the saying goes, a branch that outshines the others will be blown away by the wind. But this canyon is still fine. The energy of heaven and earth here is also denser. Let's go, Du Xiaofu said softly. Let's go in. Maybe we'll get something.
Yes.
Du Xiaoyao pursed his lips and smiled. As the three figures flashed, each of them set up a circle of Xian Qi. They carefully entered the canyon entrance and leaped through the bushes. The three of them did not dare to be careless as they carefully entered the lush shrubs, guarding against unknown dangers. One must know that the danger zone was full of dangers. The three of them advanced along the dense and lush shrubs. After nearly an hour, Little Xingxing's mind did not discover anything special. Du Xiaoyao, are you mistaken? There doesn't seem to be anything special around here. Little Star was somewhat suspicious. At this moment, the three of them were already within a dense forest. The surroundings were silent, so quiet that it was somewhat frightening. Other than the fact that the surrounding energy of heaven and earth was somewhat dense, they did not discover anything else. Du Xiaofu observed his surroundings. The heaven and earth energy fluctuations in the vicinity were obviously extremely dense, but he couldn't see anything special about it. This caused Du Xiaofu to feel rather strange in his heart. Could it be? Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's expression changed slightly, and he carefully looked around. Father, what's wrong? Little Xingxing asked Du Xiaofu. There's an illusion formation, and it's no ordinary illusion formation. Du Xiaoyao looked around and frowned slightly. We've been going around in this big circle. This illusion formation is not simple. Even I was fooled. Du Xiaoyao, we're trapped? Little Xingxing was stunned. He had already felt something strange in his heart. Hearing Du Xiaoyao's words, he carefully looked around and pouted at Du Xiaoyao. You always say how amazing your talent is, but now we're trapped. Quickly think of a way. It's not simple. Du Xiaofu looked around. There was nothing to worry about. This place had a powerful illusion formation, which proved that there was something extraordinary about it. Perhaps there would be a lot of gains. This illusion formation is extraordinary. I don't seem to be able to break it easily. Du Xiaoyao rolled her eyes at Little Xingxing, and then the corners of her mouth revealed a slight wry smile. Then what should we do? We won't be trapped, right? Little Xingxing said, and then became somewhat worried. But there's always a way. I don't believe it can trap me. Du Xiaoyao said in a deep voice. There were not many places in the world that could trap it. Whoosh whoosh. Outside the Great Mountain Canyon, a figure appeared outside the canyon. The woman in the lead had a graceful figure and a light purple dress that fluttered in the wind. She was extraordinary and moving, but her temperament was enchanting and cold. However, it was enough to make any man lose their soul. She was Lu Limo of the Lu family. Limo, it seems to be here. Behind the woman, there was an old man looking into the canyon. The old man was dressed in a yellow robe. There was no aura around him, but there was an invisible pressure. It was the old man who appeared in front of the divine palace with the human emperor. There were a total of about 10 people here. The people who were led by Lu Limo and the old man in the yellow robe were all extraordinary. The aura here is different. Perhaps there's an opportunity. Lu Limo's beautiful eyes looked around and focused on the entrance of the canyon. Then, her eyes suddenly moved slightly and she said, "It seems that someone has already entered. There aren't many people. They might be from the human clan, or they might be rogue cultivators." The old man in the yellow robe stared at the entrance of the canyon. There were traces of movement in the untouched shrubs, which proved that someone had already entered the canyon. However, there weren't many people, and the possibility of rogue cultivators was high. Even if the big sects were to split up, there would still be a lot of people, and they didn't seem to be from the Beast clan. The aura here is very strong. There might be an opportunity, but there might also be danger. Be careful when you enter. As soon as Lu Limo finished speaking, her beautiful figure flashed and entered the canyon. In the canyon, as they went deeper, the trees gradually reached the sky. Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaofu pondered around the surroundings for an hour, but they still couldn't find a way to break the illusion. They walked around in a big circle and couldn't get out. Du Xiaoyao had already used her talent, but it was useless. This illusion was not simple. "Father," Du Xiaoyao, "why don't we break the illusion by force or split up?" Little Xingxing pouted and said softly, "It's extremely dangerous here, so it's better to be careful. We don't know what will happen if we try to break the illusion by force. It's better not to try until the very end." Du Xiaofu pondered for a while and shook his head. They didn't dare to split up in this ancient, desolate, ominous grounds. If they tried to break the illusion by force, they didn't know what would happen. "I'll study it again." Du Xiaoyao didn't give up and continued to study, wanting to break the illusion. Du Xiaofu also continued to ponder, flipping through the heavenly spirit record in his mind. Du Xiaofu spent the least time studying talisman arrays. However, this didn't mean that Du Xiaofu's attainments in talisman arrays were low. Compared to others, Du Xiaofu's attainments in talisman arrays were not as good as others. However, compared to others, it was different. With the heavenly spirit record, Du Xiaofu's attainments in talisman arrays were undoubtedly standing on the shoulders of giants. "Come and see what this is."
Yes.
Finally, Du Xiaofu made a discovery and looked ahead. "Father, what did you find?" Little Xingxing's figure flashed to Du Xiaofu's side. Looking ahead, there didn't seem to be anything special about the forest. "I seem to have a clue. Follow me. There's no lack of clues. Don't go the wrong way." "All right." Du Xiaofu smiled. Although his attainments in talisman arrays weren't too high, he definitely wasn't completely ignorant. At least compared to ordinary talisman masters, he was definitely proficient. After saying that, Du Xiaofu's figure flickered, and he shuttled through the canyon. Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing looked at each other and didn't hesitate to follow. Whoosh whoosh. Along with his steps, Du Xiaofu's every step was the same distance. Golden light flashed under his feet. His figure seemed to change unpredictably. But after every 99 steps, he would directly turn left or right. In this way, a total of 9,999 steps. After 100 turns, his figure finally stopped. Turning his head around, he said to little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao, "Two people, this should be the 9-9 confusion formation left behind by the distant past." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu looked straight ahead and carefully observed for a while. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he changed his hand seal. Immediately, a streak of profound qi gushed out and turned into a golden ray of light. It carried a peculiar talisman with it as it landed in the void. Boom, boom. As the golden light swept out, a yellow light suddenly shot out from the void. Then, the whole void shook. Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing were quite surprised as a huge spatial vortex appeared on the ground where the three of them were standing. At this moment, the space under the three of them became a vacuum. It was as if a huge black hole had appeared out of nowhere. Dazzling talisman patterns gushed out, and the three of them fell into the vortex. The speed was so fast that little Xingxing, Du Xiaofu, and Du Xiaoyao were caught off guard. Not good, there are other arrangements. Be careful. Watch out. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's expression changed. He shouted, and his Xian Qi surged. Golden peng wings spread out from his back, and he quickly soared into the sky. Whoosh whoosh. It was at this moment that a terrible vortex of airflow suddenly roared out from the vortex under their feet. It was like a whirlpool of tornadoes. The talisman engravings shone brightly. Du Xiaofu activated the giant peng wings and was about to leap into the air, but his body was immediately sucked in by a huge force. His qi surged out violently. The giant peng wings cave could not jump out of the vacuum vortex under their feet. What a strong suction force! Whoosh! Du Xiaofu was shocked. With his current cultivation, he could still be bound. The suction force in this space was too terrifying. At the same time, Du Xiaofu didn't dare to hesitate. On the golden peng wings, 36 true peng feathers burst out. He used all his strength, and with the sound of wind and thunder, he pushed his power to the limit. Although he stabilized his body, he still couldn't break free. Whoosh whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao's bodies were swallowed by the suction force, and they directly fell into the terrifying vortex beneath their feet. Du Xiaofu's expression changed. He flapped his golden peng wings with all his strength and turned into a golden stream of light that swooped down. Whoosh! Whoosh! Du Xiaofu's speed was fast, but the spatial vortex in this terrifying vortex was getting stronger and stronger. Just as he was about to catch the two, he was blocked by the spatial vortex again. Roar! Roar! Today, little Xingxing transformed into his original form. Little Demon Du also activated the redbone horse monkey's body in the midst of his eruption, but it was to no avail. Although his body was enveloped by overflowing light, he was unable to stabilize his body. He was directly sucked in and disappeared into the vortex. Not good. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu's expression became serious. With the help of the huge suction force, he allowed the suction force to pull his body down. In the canyon, Lu Limo looked around and her beautiful eyes flashed. Limo, we seem to be trapped? The yellow-robed old man said softly. Hearing this, the experts around him all looked serious. If I'm not wrong, this should be a powerful illusory formation. It seems to be similar to an illusory formation in the records of the Divine Temple.
Yes.
Lu Limo looked around and then said to everyone, Everyone, follow me. Don't go the wrong way. Yes, inside the vortex, the terrifying suction force was getting stronger and stronger. There were talisman runes flickering in the surroundings, alternating between light and dark. It was extremely strange. Du Xiaofu allowed the suction force to pull him in without any resistance. He wanted to catch up with little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao, but his figure fell all the way and gradually lost sight of little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao. Whoosh whoosh! The suction force in the vortex was getting stronger and stronger. There was even a violent whistling sound that was deafening. The talisman runes flickered like electric arcs. The huge suction force had reached a terrifying level. Then, the entire vortex became completely dark. Du Xiaofu was shocked and quickly put on the green spirit armor as a precaution. Bang! Bang! About half an hour later, Du Xiaofu's body fell to the ground uncontrollably. The impact from the distance caused the ground to shake. Fortunately, he was wearing the green spirit armor, so he was completely fine. Climbing up, Du Xiaofu did not care about himself. He immediately looked around. Everywhere he looked, there was a continuous mountain range. It was still lush and green everywhere. It was completely different from most of the places in the fearsome grounds. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao. Bang! Du Xiaofu's voice reverberated in the air. His mind also looked around, but there was no trace of Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing. Nothing must happen to them.
Yes.
Du Xiaofu prayed in his heart. The three of them were pulled down together. He was fine, but he hoped that little Xing Xing and Du Xiaoyao would be fine too. Whoosh, whoosh. Then, he looked around for a while. After calming himself down, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and flew forward. He did not know where he was. Now, he could only find little Xing Xing and Du Xiaoyao first. Everyone, be careful. There's an unforeseen event.
Yes.
In the outside world, Lu Limo, the yellow-robed old man and the others were trapped in the illusion array. They did not know what was going on. Suddenly, the void changed and a terrifying vortex appeared under their feet. At this moment, they were all trapped in it. In the terrifying vortex, the experts were directly sucked in. There was an invisible force in the space that could suppress the profound qi. It was difficult to resist. Qi, qi. One by one, the experts set up defensive measures. Their profound qi surged, but it was not effective. Their bodies were all sucked into the vortex. Oh no! Qi. Lu Limo's long skirt fluttered as her beautiful face changed drastically. Her entire body was wrapped in a dazzling profound qi halo, but she couldn't resist the terrifying suction force. Her graceful body was directly sucked into the vortex, drawing a beautiful arc in the vortex. Rumble. Qi. One by one, the figures were sucked in by the suction force and disappeared. Bang! Qi. When Lu Limo's beautiful figure fell, she directly fell to the ground. Where is this? Lu Limo jumped up and looked around vigilantly. She was in a huge square. There were many towering stone pillars around the square. Everywhere, there was an ancient aura fluctuating. Lu Limo looked over and suppressed her emotions. The square was huge. It stretched for tens of thousands of feet, and there was an ancient palace in front of it. After looking around for a while, Lu Limo's beautiful face changed. Her beautiful figure flashed, and she directly went to the center of the square. Looking at the ancient palace in front of her, her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. The ancient palace was extremely huge. It was mottled with a bronze color. It was hundreds of feet tall and majestic. An ancient aura filled the air. It was as if it had been here since ancient times. For countless years, no one seemed to have set foot in this place. Looking at the ancient palace in front of her, Lu Limo frowned. Before she entered the ancient palace, she could already feel a strange aura. The aura made her feel uneasy and tremble. It was as if she was facing a monstrous beast that was sleeping. After hesitating for a while, Lu Limo gritted her teeth and carefully walked towards the ancient palace. It was likely that such a palace would not be built here for no reason. Perhaps it had a great origin. Everything in this sky burial deathland was not simple. Rumble. Rumble. Suddenly, Lu Limo took a few steps forward, and the entire square began to tremble violently. It was as if the earth was quaking and the mountains were shaking, following which, dazzling rays of light burst out from the surroundings. Mysterious runes surged out from the void, and in a short period of time, cracks began to appear on the ground of the quaint square. Creak. When the crack on the ground disappeared, 7 figures suddenly appeared in front of Lu Limo. Along with the appearance of these 7 figures, a strange yet incomparably powerful aura gushed out. Lu Limo's beautiful face changed. Her beautiful figure immediately retreated a few steps. Her bright eyes looked at the 7 figures that suddenly appeared in front of her. The 7 figures were completely red. Mysterious runes lingered around their bodies. They had a metallic texture. Their bodies were rough, but they were no different from real people. Puppets. Rumble. Lu Limo's beautiful face changed. These 7 figures were 7 puppets. Rumble. Rumble. As the 7 puppets appeared, their hollow eyes opened, and their slender metal-like arms shook as if they had not moved for countless years. At this moment, their entire bodies released a monstrous and fierce aura. This aura carried a murderous aura. Waves of monstrous murderous aura also spread out from the bodies of the 7 puppets at this moment. They turned into waves of invisible aura that shot up into the sky. The entire quiet square instantly seemed to have been activated. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The atmosphere in the void suddenly became tense. The aura was fierce and murderous. At this moment, the light in the void dimmed a little. Rumble. Rumble. Almost at the same time, The first of the 7 puppets opened its eyes. With a tap of its feet on the ground, its figure instantly leaped out, bringing with it a sharp sound that resounded through the air. Rumble. The crimson puppet shook its arm and crimson talisman runes appeared around its body. It was as if its body was covered in crimson flames. Instantly, it brought along a majestic energy of the heavens and the earth. A claw print tore through the space. Vaguely, a pitch-black spatial crack appeared under the claw print. There were even crimson flames lingering around the claw print, and it suddenly pressed towards Lu Limo. This claw was accompanied by a dense, murderous aura that swept out in all directions like a storm. Not good. Rumble. Lu Limo's beautiful eyes changed. Her figure immediately retreated. The aura of the puppet was too strong. It was so strong that it shocked her. At the same time, her long skirt trembled. Her white wrist stretched out her sleeves. A bright, profound aura surged out. A palm print was sent out. It seemed to have pierced through space as it violently rushed forward. Boom. Rumble. With a low explosive sound, Lu Limo's palm instantly collided with the puppet's claw. At the place where the two energies collided, broken runes surged and a pitch-black crack appeared in the space. In an instant, a powerful force shot out in an arc rumble. Rumble. On the ground, Lu Limo's delicate body was pushed back. Her face instantly turned pale. Her long skirt fluttered in the wind. Her cold and enchanting face was extremely dignified. She was also extremely shocked. As for the puppet, although it was pushed back a few steps, it was only pushed back. Its empty eyes continued to stare at Lu Limo with killing intent gushing out. The surrounding wind surged. Lu Limo's hair fluttered in the wind. Her graceful figure drew an alluring arc under the pressure of the energy wind. Intermediate Saint Realm puppet. The moment her beautiful figure was pushed back, dark red blood flowed out from the corner of Lu Limo's mouth. The sovereign blood glowed, making it look incomparably bleak. Her cold and enchanting face had a drastic change. This puppet had already reached the intermediate Saint Realm. Puppets were already difficult to deal with. This intermediate Saint Realm puppet was even more difficult. She had coincidentally obtained great benefits and finally stepped into the Saint Realm in the Burial Heaven Deathland. However, compared to this puppet, there was a huge difference. Whoosh, whoosh. In a short instant, when Lu Limo's graceful body had just stabilized after being pushed back, another 2 scarlet puppets leapt out at the same time. Light shone brightly and mysterious runes intertwined. Their scarlet metallic bodies appeared in front of Lu Limo like lightning. Chapter 2394. Lu Limo's expression changed drastically. Chi. The moment the 2 crimson puppets appeared in front of Lu Limo, their crimson bodies started to heat up. Their metallic bodies seemed to be burning with a crimson flame. The surrounding air was filled with a scorching aura, as if it was about to catch on fire. It could even burn one's primordial spirit. Each of the puppets unleashed a scorching claw attack. The 2 claw marks tore apart the space in front of their respective claw marks. Chi. Everything happened as fast as lightning, distorting the space. It was so fast that it was impossible to dodge. Lu Limo was shocked, but she quickly reacted. She could not dodge at all. She waved her hand, and a sword appeared in her hand. She activated her sword technique and drew in the energy of heaven and earth. Thousands of sword radiances appeared in an instant. Waves of energy filled the air and condensed into a huge sword-light tornado. It twisted the space and swept out, instantly blocking the 2 puppets. Chi. In an instant, the sword radiance and the claw marks collided again. However, the sword radiance and the claw marks were only in a stalemate for a moment. At the same time, a blinding light shot out and the bright sword radiance was torn apart by the claw marks. A large area of space was torn into pieces at this moment. Monstrous energy swept out and broke through the air, shattering the void. Chi. Lu Limo's face turned pale again. She spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back. The saint weapon sword in her hand was also knocked to the ground. Chi. The first puppet that made the first move quietly broke through the air and appeared in front of Lou Limo, who was stumbling back. At the same time, another claw was sent towards Lou Limo. Am I going to die in the hands of these puppets? Lou Limo's expression changed. She hurriedly arranged a profound chi halo around her body and retreated quickly. She knew that she could not defend against these puppets with her strength. Chi. The puppet's claw landed on the profound energy halo in front of Lou Limo in an instant. The scarlet flames from the claw poured onto the former's profound energy halo, causing the halo to ignite. The talisman engravings were obliterated, and after a short stalemate, the halo around Lou Limo's body shattered. The claw distorted the space and landed on Lou Limo's shoulder. Once these words were spoken, it would probably be enough to tear his shoulders apart. Boom. At this critical moment, an ancient flag appeared on Lou Limo's shoulder and fluttered in the air. The blazing talisman runes were like the fluctuations of the sun, blocking the claw print. It was an ancient defensive saint artifact. It was damaged and cracked, but it was still a defensive saint artifact. Not long ago, Lou Limo had obtained it and refined it, making it hers. Whoosh! A sharp tearing sound resounded. The ancient flag blocked the claw print, but it only lasted for a moment before it was torn apart. The sharp aura of the claw print still hit Lou Limo's shoulder. Lou Limo's alluring body was instantly sent flying like an angel with broken wings. She smashed into the ground far away, causing cracks to appear on the ground where she landed. Gravel flew everywhere. Puff! Puff! Within the cracks on the ground, Lou Limo spat out another mouthful of sovereign blood. On her cold and enchanting face, the corner of her mouth was dyed red, adding to her poignant beauty. Although the defensive saint artifact was damaged, it still saved her life. These puppets were at the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. So, everyone knew how troublesome and dreadful these puppets were. Generally speaking, the initial stage of the Sage Realm would be enough to make a sage expert at the peak of the initial stage of the Sage Realm to treat them seriously. In fact, they wouldn't dare to be careless in the slightest. Moreover, these puppets were not ordinary Middle Sage Realm. Lou Limo estimated that these Middle Sage Realm puppets were definitely at the end of the Middle Sage Realm. Lou Limo had just stepped into the Saint Realm not long ago, so she couldn't fight against these Middle Saint Realm puppets. Moreover, there were a total of 7 puppets. These puppets seemed to have a mind of their own. Right now, only 3 puppets were attacking. The remaining 4 puppets seemed to be watching the show and had no intention of attacking at all. However, the 3 puppets did not stop. The 3 puppets did not give Lou Limo any time to react. In a short moment, their figures flashed once again. The 3 terrifying puppets pounced on Lou Limo at the same time. 3 sharp claw prints pierced through the space. Whoosh! The 3 puppets were too terrifying, and their speed was unimaginable. 3 sharp claws trapped Lou Limo within, and a blazing gale swept out, causing Lou Limo's dress to flutter and her hair to dance in the wind. Shit! Whoosh! Faced with the joint attack of the 3 terrifying puppets, Lou Limo's cold and enchanting face turned extremely solemn. She was completely powerless to resist. It was as if she had already sensed the aura of death. She was afraid that she would fall in the hands of these puppets today. Whoosh! Whoosh! The space seemed to have been torn apart. A purple figure flashed out in front of Lou Limo. In a flash, the purple figure appeared in front of Lou Limo. With a shake of his arm, he sent out a palm print. The surrounding space was instantly filled with wind and clouds. Dazzling runes appeared along with a golden light. Majestic profound chi surged and instantly turned into 3 afterimages. Such a palm print carried a sharp aura, and with the momentum of a thunderbolt, it landed on the claws of the 3 puppets with a loud bang. Rumble. Boom. In an instant, the 3 palm imprints and the 3 claw imprints of the 3 puppets collided with each other in the most powerful way. The 3 terrifying claw imprints were only in a deadlock for a moment. Just as a dazzling light burst out, the 3 palm imprints appeared with golden light and actually shattered the claw imprints of the 3 puppets. With a deep sonic boom, a monstrous force whistled out and the 3 puppets were immediately sent flying. The purple figure also swayed slightly. His face was filled with shock. The attack power of these three puppets was comparable to a peak middle saint stage expert. Coupled with the fact that the puppets were in labor, they weren't easy to deal with. At this moment, Lou Limo, who was in despair, looked at the purple figure that suddenly appeared. When she sensed the familiar aura, her cold and enchanting face changed. How could she not recognize this purple-robed youth? Just like the rumors, he wasn't dead. He was still alive, and did not fall in the hands of the expert from the Beast Alliance. Rock Emperor. Lou Limo was shocked. Lou Limo was stunned. She was so surprised that she couldn't believe her eyes. She had never expected the person in front of her to be here. Are you all right?
Yes.
Du Xiaofu turned his head and smiled faintly. Originally, he was looking for little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao. Who knew that he would discover the commotion here from afar? He also did not expect to meet Lou Limo here. After which, Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across his surroundings. He could sense that this place was extraordinary. This was especially so for those puppets. There was actually a total of 7 of them. If every single one of them possessed such terrifying strength, they would definitely be a terrifying force to be reckoned with. I'm fine. I can still hold on.
Yes.
Looking at the purple-robed youth in front of her, Lou Limo stuffed a few elixirs into her pale mouth. She forced a smile on her cold and enchanting face. She was shocked again and said, "Be careful."
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes.
At this moment, in this short instant, the eyes of the 3 puppets that had been forced back by Du Xiaofu surged with a ferocious aura. The 3 puppets seemed to have shattered the void and pounced over once again. Under the astonishing momentum, the space seemed to have been smashed apart. When the 3 puppets moved, Du Xiaofu had already sensed the commotion. He raised his eyebrows and golden light surged on the surface of his body. His feet were like a deity as he turned around and retreated at a ghostly speed. He opened his palms like a palm leaf fan and flapped the sky-shaking wings. Wherever his palms passed, faint golden talisman runes flickered and condensed, forming an arc-shaped golden spatial dent around his palms. The golden talisman runes were densely packed and layered like the golden wings of a golden-winged rock. A domineering and ferocious aura suddenly spread out from Du Xiaofu's body and swept out, causing the space to tremble. The 3 puppets pounced towards Lou Limo, but they were swept away by the golden light that appeared in the space. The space was about to collapse inch by inch, but the 3 puppets blocked the attack. Woo woo! The 3 puppets raised their heads and let out a low roar. In an instant, their bodies emitted a blazing red light. Their arms waved like the sharp claws of a ferocious bird. Numerous sharp claws tore through the space at the same time. Strange talisman runes surged out as they attacked at the same time. They actually tore apart Du Xiaofu's sky-shaking wings. Very intentional. The 3 puppets tore apart the sky-shaking wings. The 3 puppets had just flashed out when Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of the 3 puppets at the same time. His face was slightly surprised. The 3 fist seals in his hands were as fast as lightning and landed on the bodies of the 3 puppets like rolling thunder. Bang! 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 The 3 puppets were directly sent flying by the 3 deep sonic booms. The bodies of the puppets fell to the ground in the distance, causing the earth to shake and rocks to shoot out. This time, Du Xiaofu used all his strength. Although the 3 puppets were powerful, Du Xiaofu's current strength was not the same as before. Even if he encountered an ordinary expert of the later stage of the Saint Realm, he could still contend with them. Qilal. Qi. When those 3 puppets were sent flying, the remaining 6 to 4 puppets, who had been emitting monstrous murderous auras, suddenly revealed a ferocious murderous aura within their hollow eyes. The talisman runes on the bodies of the 4 puppets seemed to be alive, for blazing claws struck out, triggering a majestic energy. In an instant, the entire space of the huge square suddenly seemed to be on fire. The high temperature descended, forming a sea of fire. Qi La, for incomparably fierce claws tore through the void in an instant, like 4 fireballs falling from the sky, trapping Du Xiaofu in them. Green spirit armor. Qi. Rock descends to the 9th heaven. Qi. Heavenly horse violent palm. Qi La. Du Xiaofu's expression changed. These were 4 puppets, not a single expert of the Saint realm. Puppets were much more difficult to deal with than experts of the same level. They were also more dangerous. Just as the 4 puppets pounced forward, Metropolis Oafu's expression changed slightly. He let out a soft cry, and a golden light flashed beneath his feet. The Scion spirit armor appeared at the same time, and the golden rock wings shone with boundless golden light. He flapped his wings and rose into the air. Covered by the green spirit armor, the rock descends to the 9th heaven, and the heavenly horse violent palm. The light was monstrous. Suddenly, in the void around Du Xiaofu, there was a sky full of palm prints pouring out like a rainstorm. In an instant, countless palm prints burst out, and the palm prints burst the void, destroying everything. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was almost at full strength. Carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock, he urged the rock descends to the 9th heaven. It was as if the rock had descended, sweeping its wings and suppressing everything. Rumble. Chila. Golden runes burst out, and it was as gorgeous as fireworks, causing the surrounding void to be resplendent. In a short moment, the thunderous momentum gathered into a storm, and the terrifying energy shattered the spatial ripples and fiercely blasted towards the 4 puppets. Boom, boom, boom. This kind of might swelled with a lightning-like speed that could not be seen with the naked eye. It collided with the 4 puppets and carried a low and deep sonic boom. An instant later, a frightening wind swept apart in all directions. Rumble. Boom. The golden light was resplendent, and the runes were blazing. A terrifying gale of energy swept out, and the spatial ripples in the air exploded inch by inch. The claws of the 4 puppets were directly shattered, and the entire space trembled. The 4 puppets' bodies fell from the air, and directly fell to the ground. The 4 puppets' bodies fell, and the square below shook, and the ground around their bodies instantly cracked. Lu Limo looked at all of this with astonishment in her beautiful eyes. Although she had heard rumors that the Rock Emperor's strength seemed to have skyrocketed, and that he had joined forces with others to scare away the blood-malevolent ancestor of the Ro Owl clan, she was shocked. However, when she saw Du Xiaofu's strength with her own eyes, she was even more shocked. The 7 puppets had the combat strength of a peak advanced Sage Realm expert, and any one of them was no weaker than a peak intermediate Sage Realm expert. She could not even contend with one of them, and the 7 puppets were equivalent to 7 peak intermediate Sage Realm experts. She did not expect that the purple-robed youth could easily push them back. Her cold and enchanting face was filled with shock, and she could not help but feel a little disappointed. If they had met in the past, she could have been closer to him. During this period of time, Lu Limo had set Du Xiaofu as her goal. After breaking through to the Sage Realm, she thought that she had caught up a little. But now, Lu Limo understood that not only did the distance between them not get closer, it was getting further and further. What powerful puppets! Even though Du Xiaofu had managed to push back the puppets, he was still shocked in his heart. His figure was pushed back a few steps in the air, and he only managed to stabilize his body after a stomp on the air. His hands were behind his back, and his palms were slightly numb. These puppets seemed to be completely refined from some kind of incomparably hard refining material, not living puppets. To refine puppets of this level, even with the heritage of the 9 great families, it would be difficult to find all the materials required to refine puppets of this level. The toughness of these 7 puppets shocked Du Xiaofu even more. Even though he did not hold back, he was still unable to deal much damage to them. The toughness of these puppets was extremely abnormal. Looking around, Du Xiaofu could tell that these 7 terrifying puppets were guarding this place. It was as though no one had ever set foot in this place before. Du Xiaofu was certain that these 7 terrifying puppets were guarding this place. To be able to guard this place with 7 puppets, it was enough to show how extraordinary this place was. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 7 puppets that were sent flying stood up again in an instant. The puppets' bodies were not damaged at all. The terrifying defensive power proved that the materials used to refine the weapons were stronger than what Du Xiaofu had imagined. Woo! Woo! The 7 puppets stood up once again. Light filled the sky as a blazing aura engulfed the entire space. They growled in a low voice, looking even more ferocious and murderous. Their empty eyes were filled with killing intent as they stared at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes when he saw this. Each of these puppets possessed the fighting strength of an expert at the peak of the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. Puppets weren't easy to deal with. 7 such puppets were much more difficult to deal with than 7 experts at the peak of the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. Rumble, rumble. Without any delay, the 7 puppets leaped away at the same time. Their speed was as fast as lightning. The 7 figures formed a mysterious circle, trapping Du Xiaofu and Lu Limo in the middle. Rumble. The 7 puppets glowed, and their aura seemed to be rising. Rock Emperor, what should we do? Lu Limo's face was solemn as she came to Du Xiaofu's side. She could feel that these terrifying puppets seemed to have other tricks up their sleeves, and they were far more complicated and mysterious than ordinary puppets. These aren't ordinary puppets. These puppets are very strange. Du Xiaofu looked at the 7 puppets around him. The eyes of these puppets were not empty like the eyes of ordinary puppets. Instead, they were filled with an extremely exuberant killing intent. It was as if they would not stop until they had killed all the intruders. It was Du Xiaofu's first time seeing puppets of this level. Even with his current cultivation, Du Xiaofu couldn't guarantee that he would be able to refine such a terrifying puppet even if he was given the materials for refining tools. Moreover, it wasn't something that could be refined in a short period of time. As Du Xiaofu observed, the 7 puppets seemed to be arranging something, and they even seemed to have a tacit understanding. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was even more astonished and didn't dare to act rashly. In the sacred palace, there are some insights left behind by the ancestors, and there are also some records of refining puppets. If my guess is correct, these puppets should be refined by an ancient expert. The body of a puppet is a dead object, but in the mind of these puppets, there is a special method to extract the primordial spirit of a person and then seal it in the mind of the puppet. Thus, the puppets created by this method have some intelligence, and these puppets are much more powerful than ordinary puppets. Lu Limo was also observing the 7 puppets around her, and her cold and pale face became more and more solemn. Could it be like this? Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes moved, and he stared at the 7 puppets. This method of refining puppets seemed to be recorded at the end of the Heavenly Spirit Record, but there wasn't a detailed introduction. Perhaps this method of refining puppets was added by his master, Saint Han Soul Emperor. Just as Du Xiaofu and Lu Limo were observing, the blazing aura of the 7 puppets increased greatly, and the mysterious runes on their bodies shone brightly, and the scarlet light seemed to have solidified into flames. Rumble. Suddenly, the mysterious runes on the 7 puppets soared into the sky in an arc, and the runes on the 7 puppets connected, like a spider web in the air, and enveloped the entire space. The runes on the 7 puppets shone brightly, and the entire space seemed to be enveloped by a blazing sea of fire. Walala! Walala! The blazing runes connected with each other and enveloped the surrounding space. Du Xiaofu and Lu Limo were directly shrouded in it. Boom! The imposing auras of the 7 puppets suddenly rose from the peak of the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm to the level of the late stage of the Sage Realm in an instant. Their imposing auras were still somewhat inferior to the level of the late stage of the Sage Realm. However, the imposing auras of these 7 puppets weren't just a little bit stronger than before. In fact, they were very close to the level of the late stage of the Sage Realm. It's the puppet combined attack formation. Boom! Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. It seemed as if these 7 puppets had intelligence. In fact, they even knew how to launch a joint attack. The aura of these 7 puppets was comparable to that of the late stage of the Sage Realm. So, their strength was comparable to that of an ordinary expert of the late stage of the Sage Realm. We seem to be in big trouble. Lu Limo looked at Du Xiaofu with a dignified expression on her pale face. At this time, the 7 puppets were undoubtedly equivalent to 7 late Sage Realm experts. At this moment, the 7 puppets' combat power could be said to be unstoppable by the first family, Ji family, Yao family, Feng family, and any other large family, even if they sent out all their experts, unless the true experts of those large families who were in seclusion appeared. Be careful. All right. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. From her aura, He had already seen that Lu Limo had also stepped into the Sage Realm, but it was still far from enough to face the puppets at this moment. As soon as his voice fell, a golden light flashed on Du Xiaofu's body, and the golden rock wings on his back made a sound of wind and thunder. The golden rock wings and cyan spirit armor were fully activated, and he did not dare to be careless. Qila, at the same time, the 7 puppets that were faintly connected to each other, and the mysterious runes on the surface of their bodies fluctuated, triggering a majestic and terrifying energy. The space rumbled, and 2 puppets took the lead to rush out like lightning, connecting with the mysterious runes in the sky. Sharp claws brought along an unparalleled blazing wind, and violently clawed at Lu Limo and Du Xiaofu respectively. Looking at the terrifying puppets that rushed over, Lu Limo's beautiful eyes changed greatly. Her expression became dignified, and a vast amount of profound qi instantly erupted from her graceful and seductive body. At this moment, she had already used all her strength, but she knew that she could not resist at all. She just did not want to distract the people around her. Chapter 2395. Du Xiaofu's gaze was extremely serious as he watched the 2 puppets pouncing towards him. The rock wings on his back flapped as he advanced instead of retreating. His hands were wrapped in golden light as he shook his arms and punched out with his fists. Golden light burst out and cracks appeared in the surrounding space. His fists were like 2 dragons emerging from the sea as they struck out with lightning speed. Bang, bang, bang. The fist and the claw collided like meteors. Under the frightening collision of energy, the entire space shook and shattered. A terrifying gale swept out, and the 2 puppets and Du Xiaofu staggered back at the same time. So strong. Bang. Du Xiaofu flapped his wings and stabilized his body. He was surprised. After the puppets' aura skyrocketed, they indeed had the combat power of a late-stage Saint Realm expert. It was equivalent to having 1 foot in the late-stage Saint Realm. Lu Limo raised her eyes and frowned. She couldn't help at all, and the other party still had to protect her. Rock Emperor, don't worry about me. You go first. Lu Limo said. She knew that with Du Xiaofu's means, it shouldn't be difficult for him to escape. Be careful, Lu Limo said. Du Xiaofu said, and his figure suddenly appeared beside Lu Limo. Rock Emperor, you really don't have to worry about me. Go quickly. Lu Limo looked at Du Xiaofu and forced a bitter smile on her pale face. Bang, bang. Another puppet pounced on Du Xiaofu. Mysterious runes were faintly connected to each other in the air. The puppet's fist exploded, as though it had brought along a sea of fire, shrouding Du Xiaofu and Lu Limo. Tyrannical fists. Bang. In the blink of an eye, Du Xiaofu shook his arm. Amidst the faint cries of dragons and elephants, a fist print landed directly on the puppet's fist. A majestic golden light surged up like a howling gale. An incomparably overbearing aura gathered in the puppet's fist. The puppet's fist was shaken back at a speed visible to the naked eye. Fine cracks even appeared on the surface of the puppet's fist. It seemed that a monstrous force had collided with it in an instant. Boom! Another 2 puppets attacked from the left and right at the same time. One was a palm print that was like a fiery cloud that covered the sky, while the other was a claw print that tore through the void. Du Xiaofu lowered his gaze. The golden wings of the great rock was like a great rock flapping its wings, exuding a boundless tyrannical pressure. It was as though it wanted to soar into the skies, soaring through the skies. A supreme aura permeated the air, suppressing the heavens and earth. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes shone with golden light, like 2 suns shining in the sky, overlooking the world. The azure spirit armor was pushed to the extreme. Rock chaos crushing claw. Star-shattering fist. A sharp claw stretched out from Du Xiaofu's right hand. It was like a real rock's claw that wanted to tear through the sky. Golden talisman patterns flickered, and a powerful and overbearing aura spread out from the sharp claw. As the claw swept out, the terrifying aura caused the space to rumble. The tyrannical energy fluctuation was like a vast ocean, like a golden rainbow across the sky. Then, amidst the surging runes, it directly tore through the fiery cloud that covered the sky. A punch that could shatter space appeared to be able to shatter stars. In an instant, it collided with the crimson puppet's claw imprint. A terrifying energy storm immediately swept out like a hurricane, causing the puppet to be directly forced back. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. However, at this moment, the remaining 5 puppets did not delay. The 5 puppets leaped out and pounced towards Du Xiaofu and Lu Limo at the same time. The wind and clouds surged in the sky, and the flames blazed. It was as though volcanoes were erupting at the same time. Rumble. Du Xiaofu instantly activated his lightning martial vein. Lightning flashed around his body, and a silver-gold lightning shot out from between his eyebrows. The redbone horse, monkey vein soul, and primordial spirit appeared at the same time. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and the mighty thunder might surged. Rumble. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body opened and closed. The redbone horse, monkey, primordial spirit, vein soul, and primordial spirit's body were filled with lightning. The sky was filled with golden light. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The great rock flapped its wings and soared through the 9 heavens, sweeping across the vast sky. The tyrannical and terrifying aura filled the sky, suppressing all living things. Lightning flashed and swept across the sky. The dazzling lightning talisman runes bloomed, and the aura was domineering and terrifying. The supreme beast of the golden-winged Great Rock clan could move the sky like a great rock. It contained the power to move mountains and seas. It could shake mountains and rivers, cause mountains to collapse and the earth to crack, and destroy everything. Du Xiaofu soared through the sky, bathed in golden light. He was the only one who reigned supreme and suppressed everything in his path. Rumble. Rumble. The space rumbled and rushed to the heavens, causing the space to tremble. A series of dazzling runes burst forth. Amidst the earth-shattering sound, it was as though the entire square was about to be shattered. Lu Limo was shocked. How long had it been? The purple-robed youth's battle strength had actually broken through to such a terrifying level. Du Xiaofu unleashed his full strength. Numerous attacks swept out from his hands, each of which carried a frightening and shocking might. Lightning light covered the sky, and golden light shone brightly. The surrounding space directly cracked apart, and a monstrous aura surged out. There were a total of 7 puppets, and at this moment, they were clashing with each other. This was an astonishing battle. Rumble. Under such a terrifying collision, the ancient space trembled violently. The terrifying shockwaves tore the surrounding space apart, revealing a pitch-black light. In an instant, they merged back together. The 7 puppets were connected with each other in a profound way. Perhaps Du Xiaofu would have found it easier to deal with these 7 puppets if they were merely 7 puppets with the battle prowess of the late stage of Sage Realm. However, the strength of these 7 puppets had increased greatly. Moreover, they had formed a joint attack formation. So, their battle prowess had reached a new level once they joined hands. The more Du Xiaofu fought, the more shocked he became. At this moment, when the 7 puppets joined forces, they were definitely not much weaker than the Lei Yang back then. Ding ding. Although Du Xiaofu wasn't at a disadvantage in the terrifying energy storm in the sky and the energy storm of the broken talisman patterns, he was constantly pushed back. Fortunately, he had the immortal Xin body and the blue spirit armor, so he didn't suffer too much damage. Bang! Bang! In the sky, as Du Xiaofu was pushed back again, a blazing claw tore through the void and heavily grasped the golden rock wings on Du Xiaofu's back. As the claw clawed down, a deep sonic boom was heard. The claw fell on Du Xiaofu's body, and suddenly, purple-gold electric arcs lingered. Thunder exploded, leaving a mark on the golden rock wings, but it was not deep. Qi-La, with such a claw on his back, Du Xiaofu's body directly staggered forward. At the same time, purple-gold electric arcs exploded on Du Xiaofu's huge body, and a huge electric arc suddenly surged into the claw of the puppet, shaking it away. Under the joint attack of the 7 puppets, Du Xiaofu, who had used his meridian spirit primordial spirit body, was in an extremely difficult situation. He also had to protect Lu Limo. Fortunately, with the immortal Xin body and the green spirit armor, he was not in a big trouble. Under the terrifying defensive power, he was able to withstand it. If it was someone else, it was easy to imagine the outcome. So strong. Bang! Du Xiaofu's gaze became more serious. These 7 puppets were definitely equivalent to a Lei Yang at this moment. At this moment, he was surrounded, and he also had to protect Lu Limo. He was afraid that it would be difficult to resist. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As his body retreated, Du Xiaofu did not hesitate. The golden rock wings on his back flapped, and he flew up into the sky. He stretched his waist and hugged Lu Limo's soft waist, and directly broke through the sky to escape. These 7 puppets were too difficult to deal with. Woo-woo, woo-woo. The 7 puppets let out a woo-woo sound, and the 7 figures moved together. In the hands of each puppet, there was a blazing energy connected together, forming a huge encirclement that enveloped Du Xiaofu. It was like a blazing sea of fire, and Du Xiaofu was unable to escape. Du Xiaofu's golden rock wings flapped and directly cut through the space. However, at this moment, under the invisible binding force, it was difficult for him to break through the sky, and it was even more difficult for him to carry Lu Limo. Boom! Woo-woo! In an instant, a puppet in front of Du Xiaofu leaped out. Its eyes were ferocious, and it was filled with killing intent. The claw turned into a fist, and a fist was directly smashed out towards Du Xiaofu. Mysterious Yellow Emperor's Seal. Boom! Du Xiaofu did not have the time to consider. The mysterious Yellow Emperor's Seal slammed out and collided with the puppet. The colorful and gorgeous handprint carried a glaring tail of light amidst the Sanskrit sound. In an instant, it collided with the terrifying puppet's fist. An earth-shaking, muffled sound of energy immediately resounded over this ancient, empty space. Bang! Boom! Runes burst out, and a dazzling light burst out. It was like 2 meteorites colliding, and terrifying energy ripples swept out like a vast ocean. In the middle of the collision, a huge black hole collapsed, and a tiger roared, and a sparrow and a turtle cried. An azure dragon, a white tiger, a phoenix, a black tortoise, and a black tortoise appeared, and the cold pressure caused the world to boil. This time, the puppet was directly blasted away, and even the puppet's joint attack formation seemed to be greatly affected. Chi-chi. At the same time, 2 more puppets tore through the void, and claw marks pierced through the void. The remaining 4 puppets besieged the Scarlet Horse Monkey's Yuan Spirit Meridian Soul. Domineering Tao. Boom! A terrifying aura spread out from his body, shaking the void so much that it was as if wind and thunder were rumbling. The aura surged and shook the void, and at the same time, Du Xiaofu raised his head and let out a loud roar that sounded like a dragon's roar and a divine elephant's cry. Ayo! Boom! The sound waves swept out like a tsunami, surging and sweeping in all directions, causing the entire void to rumble. Countless loud roars echoed in the sky, and it was as if thunder from the 9 heavens had resounded in the world. The sound waves surged, accompanied by a golden rune energy ripple, like a vast ocean surging and spreading. This sound wave was not a simple sound wave, but contained a kind of martial way, causing the 7 puppets' joint attack array to boil. At the same time, Du Xiaofu flapped his wings, and lightning suddenly surged in his eyes. Astonishing energy swept out, and golden light swept across the 2 puppets that were pouncing towards him. With a flap of its wings, a large rock struck the sky. The surrounding space was directly shattered, revealing a pitch-black spatial crack. The entire sky trembled violently. A wave of frightening energy ripple instantly turned into a storm, taking the shape of a ring as it suddenly spread apart. Du Xiaofu's body was slightly pushed back, but at this moment, the 2 puppets were sent flying in a straight line, falling from the sky. It was as if their battle strength had suddenly become much weaker. At this moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to have discovered something and instantly revealed a trace of doubt. Under the sharp, probing power of his Yuan spirit, he felt that the domineering aura from before had a huge effect on these puppets, causing them to become sluggish for a moment. Du Xiaofu was surprised, and his mind immediately began to think. The domineering aura contained the way of things, and the strongest attack power was the attack power of the Yuan spirit. Could it be? Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up. Could it be that these puppets were afraid of Yuan spirit attacks? or at least would be affected by them. Woo-woo. While Du Xiaofu was deep in thought, one of the puppets that had been forced back by him once again pounced towards him. The two puppets that had fallen in the air earlier, and whose fighting strength had been affected, also pounced towards him in an instant. The three puppets attacked together this time, outlining three blazing energy pillars that pierced through space like shock waves. They were like three scarlet lightning spears that rapidly shot towards Du Xiaofu. Humph, humph. Under the purple lightning in his eyes, Du Xiaofu's lightning pillars surged, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Suddenly, strange hand seals formed in his hands, and purple-gold lightning arcs overflowed. When the three scarlet energy pillars pierced through space and appeared, the ancient runes around him immediately rippled. At this moment, with Du Xiaofu as the center, an 8-trigram diagram suddenly appeared in the sky. Boom, boom. In an instant, the sky trembled, and the 8 trigrams were connected to each other in the sky. It was like a bright divine ring that spread into the distance, and a boundless power instantly descended upon the ancient square. Sizzle. When the 8-trigram diagram appeared in the sky, the 3 blazing energy pillars were suddenly pushed aside. Roar. In an instant, the 8-trigram diagram in the sky was filled with the cries of thousands of beasts. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, mountains and lakes moved, wind and rain alternated. Mountains and rivers appeared, and the sun, moon, and stars changed. There were also phantoms of the purple flame demonic phoenix, the grass of immortality, and the dark seeker grass. He was wrapped in a green spirit armor, and the rock wings on his back flapped, and golden light erupted. At this moment, Du Xiaofu stepped on the 8-trigram diagram, and light filled the sky, and purple-gold lightning wrapped around him. The 3 puppets that were close to him seemed to have felt something, and they tried to break free from the space-time prison. However, they were unable to do so, and the surrounding space collapsed inch by inch, but it recovered in an instant, and they were unable to break free. Du Xiaofu stood on the 8-trigram diagram in the sky, but he could only barely suppress a few of the puppets. The strength of these puppets was comparable to the later stage of the Saint Realm. At this moment, Lu Limo, who was in Du Xiaofu's arms, trembled. This was not the first time she felt such a vast aura, but it was even more frightening now. What a terrifying technique. Terrifying. Looking at all of this, Lu Limo, who was pale, was stunned. Under this terrifying power, she felt a sense of absolute fear, and the profound qi, primordial spirit, and martial veins in her body were all suppressed. Within the 8-trigram diagram, ancient talisman runes spread out, and finally enveloped the 4 puppets that were fighting with the red-bone horse monkey's primordial spirit. The 7 puppets were enveloped by the void 8-trigrams diagram and were greatly affected. The light on their bodies dimmed significantly, and the mysterious runes on their bodies were faintly connected to each other. At this moment, within Du Xiaofu's void 8-trigrams diagram, there were traces of cracks. Qila. Qila. Feeling this influence, how could Du Xiaofu miss it? From the body of the red-bone horse monkey's primordial spirit, a bright silver-gold lightning arc shot out, and it took the opportunity to rush into the glabella of one of the puppets. The silver-gold lightning arc rushed into the puppet's mind, and in the depths of the puppet's mind, there was a ball of bright red light, and a murderous aura filled it. Spiritual lightning was the nemesis of the soul. At this moment, the dazzling arc of lightning was the spiritual lightning on Du Xiaofu's soul body. It immediately dispersed the crimson light, and a humanoid soul body was immediately revealed. Its eyes were blood-red and blazing, appearing very ferocious. Its aura was extremely ferocious, as if it was completely condensed from a ferocious aura. Feeling the aura of the spiritual thunder, the ferocious primordial spirit was instinctively afraid, but it immediately pounced out fiercely, as if it was not afraid of death. However, this ferocious primordial spirit was ultimately suppressed. The spiritual thunder was its nemesis, and it was directly suppressed. In the void 8-trigrams, Du Xiaofu was surprised. The level of this primordial spirit was very strong, but it was extremely strange at this time, as if it did not have much intelligence. Everything in its body seemed to have been refined, and only a murderous aura was left. It was even a murderous aura. The refiner must have used some special means to refine it into a murderous aura. However, at this time, what shocked Du Xiaofu was not the refinement of this primordial spirit, but the defense in the puppet's mind. It was weaker than Du Xiaofu had originally imagined, and there was no defense at all. When he first used the domineering Tao and the power of the soundwave primordial spirit, Du Xiaofu discovered that the defense in the puppet's mind was very weak. As a terrifying puppet at such a level, its mind would usually be sealed by a powerful restriction in the puppet's mind. These seals were not easy to open, and if an outsider wanted to control the puppet, the seal would directly destroy the puppet. No matter who created this terrifying puppet, it was unlikely that anyone would be able to take it away from them so easily. Therefore, at the beginning, although Du Xiaofu wanted to control the puppet, he did not think too much about it. To control the puppet, first of all, it needed a primordial spirit that was stronger than the one who had set it up. The owner of these 7 puppets was definitely not an ordinary person. It was easier said than done to control them. However, in the mind of these terrifying puppets, there was no obstruction at all, and there were no seals at all. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was surprised. The owner of these 7 puppets did not set up any seals, which was different for Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu's spiritual thunder contained the silver net soul devouring thunder, and immediately swallowed this primordial spirit. Although this primordial spirit was extremely ferocious, its superfluous nature had been refined, and only its murderous nature was left. It was not difficult to swallow and refine it. Rumble, rumble. At the same time, the scarlet demonic horse monkey's primordial spirit continued to attack. Silver gold electric arcs surged out, leaving behind a silver gold lightning stream, and directly entered the glabella of the 6 puppets that were bound in the void 8 trigrams diagram. Chi. These terrifying puppets were originally bound, but as the spiritual thunder entered the glabella, their bodies suddenly trembled, and their ferocious eyes became lifeless. Du Xiaofu had already tested them, and the primordial spirit within these puppets did not have much resistance. The spiritual thunder was their nemesis, and in addition to the suppression of the void 8 trigrams diagram, they were smoothly swallowing and refining. Du Xiaofu originally wanted to destroy these 7 puppets, but when he found that there were no seals in the minds of these puppets, he wanted to directly use the spiritual thunder to swallow the primordial spirit in their minds. He did not want to destroy these puppets. These puppets were refined using a special secret method, and there was also a terrifying combined attack formation. Its power was astonishing and direct. If he swallowed the primordial spirit within these puppets and placed his own primordial spirit imprint on it, it would undoubtedly make these puppets his own. If he directly destroyed these puppets, Du Xiaofu knew that he did not understand the refining method of these puppets. Even if he took a step back and wanted to refine these terrifying puppets, he would need to directly kill 7 experts at the peak of the late stage of the Sage Realm to refine them, and he would need the primordial spirits of 9 experts at the peak of the late stage of the Sage Realm. At this moment, there was a ready-made puppet. The owner of these puppets did not place any seals in these puppets, as if these puppets were not too important in his heart. Du Xiaofu naturally would not be polite. If he could refine and control the primordial spirit within these puppets' minds, it would undoubtedly be equivalent to controlling these 7 puppets. As for the method to control these primordial spirits, Du Xiaofu was familiar with it, and it was not difficult. As for the method to control these puppets, Du Xiaofu reckoned that the method to control these puppets lay in these puppets' bodies if there was no accident. 7 spirit thunders entered the 7 puppets' minds, and the savage primordial spirits within the 7 puppets immediately pounced malevolently. However, as Du Xiaofu had guessed, these primordial spirits were unable to deal with the spirit thunders, and were suppressed in various ways. These puppets were indeed strong, but they needed the cooperation of these primordial spirits and the puppets' bodies. The key lay in these primordial spirits. With these primordial spirits in the minds of the puppets, one would be able to control and display the fighting strength of these puppets to the greatest extent. The savage and murderous primordial spirits blocked and resisted the spirit thunders, but they were suppressed under various kinds of suppression. Moreover, The spirit thunders had the special characteristics of the silver silk soul swallowing thunder. Therefore, these primordial spirits were soon refined and regained control over them. Then, Du Xiaofu began to set up his methods. In the depths of the primordial spirits of these puppets, he set up a soul imprint. He also set up a seal in their minds. Du Xiaofu did not want these puppets to be easily controlled by someone like him. After the 7 puppets were completely controlled by Du Xiaofu's spirit thunders, their bodies became sluggish, and their eyes began to show signs of submission. Qi. Qi. Now that everything was under control, Du Xiaofu's golden pong wings and azure spirit armor were retracted, and the 8 trigrams diagram in the sky also disappeared. The red horse monkey Yuan Shan and meridian spirit body also returned to the Naiwan palace in his mind. After putting Lu Limo down, Du Xiaofu landed on the ground and took a deep breath. The 7 terrifying puppets had already become docile, and they quietly stood by the side. Lu Limo's eyes were filled with shock, and she was unable to regain her senses for a long time. Following which, she stared blankly at the 7 puppets in front of her. At this moment, the 7 puppets were sluggish and docile. Lu Limo had seen Du Xiaofu's methods with her own eyes. It wasn't difficult for her to guess that Du Xiaofu was controlling the 7 puppets. Boom, boom. Within the eyes of the 7 puppets, the sluggish gazes suddenly became ferocious and murderous, and the murderous aura became even stronger. At the same time, 7 vast auras surged from the 7 puppets. Their gazes were ferocious, but they did not move against Du Xiaofu. Instead, they revealed a look of submission. This was Du Xiaofu trying to control these puppets. He wanted to test it out, and he was pleasantly surprised to find that these puppets seemed to be much stronger than before. From now on, I'll call you the 7 holy puppets. All right. Du Xiaofu's eyes revealed a smile as he looked at the 7 puppets in front of him. As his voice faded, he waved his purple robe sleeve at the same time. The 7 puppets, which were incomparably terrifying and ferocious earlier, were immediately kept into the Qingquan bag in his hand. The process of controlling these 7 puppets was so smooth that it was far beyond Du Xiaofu's expectations. It was almost as if he had used a little method to easily place his soul imprint, as if they were refined by him. Du Xiaofu was definitely a puppet connoisseur. These 7 terrifying puppets didn't have any seals or restrictions placed on them. Generally speaking, only spirit talisman masters would refine some puppets that they didn't put in their eyes. Only when the refiner treated these puppets as a test product, they wouldn't pay too much attention to them. This was why this kind of situation would occur. Du Xiaofu could not help but sigh. If this was as he had guessed, then the expert who refined these 7 puppets only used them as test subjects. What level had their cultivation reached? Du Xiaofu knew that if these 7 terrifying puppets were placed in the outside world, even the great sects like the 9 great families would treat them like priceless treasures. Without the super experts from the eternal tomb from the 9 great families, no one would be able to contend against these puppets. But here, these 7 puppets did not pay much attention to them, and they did not even leave their soul imprints. But in any case, Du Xiaofu smiled at this time. With these 7 puppets, there was no doubt that he had 7 peak intermediate sage realm cultivators by his side. After joining forces, they were enough to fight against an ordinary late sage realm cultivator. He had some more backing by his side. With these 7 puppets, Du Xiaofu estimated that if Lei Yang came to provoke him again, these 7 puppets would be enough to make Lei Yang helpless. Rock Emperor, those 7 puppets, did you subdue them?
Yes.
Looking at the faint smile on Du Xiaofu's resolute face, Lu Limo's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. She stared at Du Xiaofu and asked. But when her voice fell, Lu Limo smiled bitterly. She felt that her question was a little unnecessary. The 7 puppets had been kept in Du Xiaofu's Qingquan bag. It was obvious that they were under his control. Those 7 puppets were equivalent to 7 experts at the peak of the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. In fact, they could even fight against an expert of the late stage of the Sage Realm if they joined forces. Moreover, these puppets possessed incredible defensive power and were extremely reckless. So, no one wanted to encounter them. Chapter 2396. Gulp. Lu Limo's heart trembled as she felt a burning sensation in her throat. After the 7 puppets fell into the purple-robed youth's hands, it was no doubt that the purple-robed youth had gained another 7 terrifying experts. If the 7 puppets were to be seen by any major forces, they would definitely be envious and heartbroken. Ming faintly revealed a bitter smile. Lu Limo sighed in her heart. It seemed that the 7 puppets that Ming faintly obtained in this burial wasteland were already a shocking harvest for this terrifying fella. At this moment, if anyone dared to provoke this abnormal fella in the burial wasteland, they could only blame themselves for their misfortune. Fortunately, we're fine. All right. Hearing Lu Limo's words, Du Xiaofu put away his thoughts and smiled at Lu Limo. Puff. All right. As Du Xiaofu finished speaking, Lu Limo's injuries were not light. Fresh blood flowed out from her mouth, and her delicate body became weak. Your injuries are very serious. All right. A golden light flashed under Du Xiaofu's feet, and he instantly appeared beside her delicate body. He helped her up and hugged her waist. With a soft jade in his arms, a faint fragrance assailed his nostrils. It was incomparably alluring. Your injuries are not light. All right. Lu Limo's delicate face squeezed out a bitter smile. With her strength, it was not easy for her to endure the continuous attacks of the puppets until now. Heal your injuries first. All right. Du Xiaofu looked at the simple palace in front of him. There were 7 terrifying puppets guarding the outside, and there were likely many dangers inside. At this moment, Lu Limo's injuries were very serious, and it was best not to go in first. Sweeping his gaze, Du Xiaofu helped Lu Limo to a clean plaza in front to heal her injuries. Being supported by him, Lu Limo's body secretly trembled. Her body stiffened and a slight blush crept up her pale face. It was not easy for them to reach this place. Heal your injuries first. I'll protect you. All right. Du Xiaofu whispered in Lu Limo's ear. All right. Only then did Lu Limo regain her senses. She didn't dare to raise her head as a blush crept up her cheeks. She was afraid that she would be seen through. After nodding her head, she immediately lowered her head and sat cross-legged. She formed a hand seal and began to meditate. Du Xiaofu didn't notice anything strange about Lu Limo. His purple robe shook slightly as he raised his head to look around, carefully observing the surroundings. This place was ancient and filled with vicissitudes. The square was surrounded by an endless mountain range. The interior of the ancient palace in front appeared calm. However, if one were to carefully observe, one would feel as though a monstrous, ferocious beast was hibernating. Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless under such an aura. He did not know what dangers were hidden within, so it was better to be cautious. After observing for a while, Du Xiaofu turned around and looked at Lu Limo, who was meditating. Then, he walked over to Lu Limo and placed a seal around her. He consumed a lot of spiritual energy and sat down cross-legged before he closed his eyes and started to meditate. He had consumed a lot of spiritual energy just now. Time slowly passed as the two of them breathed. Whoosh, whoosh. In the deathly silent land, there were many figures flitting across the vast void. An invisible and powerful aura leaked out and landed on a towering mountain. There were 3 people in the lead. 2 of them were extraordinary youths. The one in the lead had a face that seemed to be carefully carved. The curve of his lips was perfect, as though he was smiling all the time. That smile was dangerous and evil, causing the aura on his body to be very complicated. Beside this youth, there was another youth with black hair and black clothes. The space around him began to faintly distort. He had long eyebrows that were like willows. His eyebrows were distinct, and his eyes were like jet-black agates. His eyeballs were pure black, and he looked very handsome. There was also a figure with a hood that covered half of his face, revealing a pair of terrifying eyes. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would naturally recognize them immediately. They were Moksha, Jialo Jueju, and Imo Lingzi. Lord Imo, we've already received news that the crack outside the ominous grounds is getting bigger and bigger. Perhaps it won't be long before the Devil Emperors can re-enter. Should we wait for the Devil Emperors to arrive? After all, the Sky Burial Deathland is extraordinary. Lord Devil God also specially reminded us to be careful. An old man said respectfully. His robe fluttered in the wind, and his long hair was filled with black demon chi. His eyes emitted a frightening and strange cold light. His aura was stronger than the 5 demon envoys that Du Xiaofu had killed. It's good that something has happened in the fearsome ground. However, there's not much time left. We can't wait any longer. As soon as Moksha's voice fell, his figure flashed and appeared in front of them. In the quiet and ancient square, Lu Limo's injuries were too severe. Along with the breathing exercises, she had consumed quite a number of elixirs. After dozens of hours, her pale complexion finally recovered a trace of redness. However, it wouldn't be possible for her to recover from such a severe injury in a short period of time. Whoosh! Withdrawing her hand seal, Lu Limo opened her eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. This wasn't a place for her to truly recover, and there was no time to waste here. Opening her beautiful eyes, Lu Limo's gaze focused on the purple robe that was wrapped in golden light. Her gaze was a little entranced. How is it? Sigh. Sensing the fluctuation of aura, Du Xiaofu stopped his breathing and withdrew his hand seal. The golden light on his body slowly retracted, and a golden light flashed in his eyes. His clear gaze fell on Lu Limo's body. Judging from her complexion, Lu Limo's injuries seemed to have recovered a little. However, they were still quite severe, and she wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time. You can move now. This is not a place to stay for long.
Yes.
Lu Limo nodded. At this moment, they were in an unknown place, and there wasn't much time to heal. Looking at Du Xiaofu, everyone was in a hurry to find an opportunity. For this young man in front of her to be able to protect her for so long, she felt a little strange. Gazing at Du Xiaofu, she said softly, I'm really sorry for wasting so much of your time and dragging you down. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Du Xiaofu smiled. He didn't think much of it, but he felt that this woman was a lot gentler compared to when they first met. Following which, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but think of Ouyang Shuang. Fortunately, that tomboy wasn't here. Otherwise, if she saw him and Lu Limo together, she couldn't help but touch her earlobe subconsciously. Then let's go and search around. This place isn't simple.
Yes.
Lu Limo nodded. She didn't notice Du Xiaofu's strange expression. Her beautiful eyes revealed a hint of a smile, and her expression once again returned to her cold and enchanting temperament. I'm afraid we didn't find anything outside, Du Xiaofu said. He had already secretly searched around the square, but he didn't find anything. If there was anything, it should be inside the ancient palace. There should be something extraordinary inside the palace. Maybe there's even greater danger.
Yes.
Lu Limo looked at the huge palace with a solemn expression. The puppets outside the square were already so powerful. She was afraid that the ones inside would be even more terrifying. Du Xiaofu had already sized up the palace in front of them. The ancient palace was extremely huge, and its whole body was bronze in color. It stood tall and majestic, as if it had existed since ancient times. It was ancient, as if no one had set foot in it for countless years. Let's go in and take a look.
Yes.
Du Xiaofu said softly. They didn't find anything outside, and even if there was something, it should be inside the ancient palace. Since they were already here, even if there was danger, they couldn't miss it. We must be careful. Lu Limo hesitated for a moment, then she followed behind Du Xiaofu and walked towards the ancient palace. The ancient palace was huge, and the two of them didn't find anything dangerous when they arrived at the palace. There was only one door in this huge ancient palace. It was unknown what material it was made of, but there were many images of ferocious beasts engraved on it, and it was densely covered with mysterious runes. Du Xiaofu didn't let his guard down. Profound qi surged within his body, and he was vigilant of his surroundings. When they entered the palace, there was nothing inside. This made Du Xiaofu a little suspicious. Such a huge palace, with 7 puppets guarding it, how could it be empty? Be careful, there's something special about it, Lu Limo said softly. Lu Limo said softly. She looked around suspiciously and felt that something was amiss. The two of them carefully inspected the palace, but they didn't find anything. However, there was an ancient aura that was spreading throughout the palace, which made Du Xiaofu a little surprised. This aura seems to be a little strange. Du Xiaofu frowned. There seemed to be nothing inside, but this strange aura seemed to be extremely ancient. It seems to be an extraordinary illusion array.
Yes.
Just when Du Xiaofu was frowning, Lu Limo's voice sounded. She said to Du Xiaofu, Rock Emperor, if I'm not wrong, I think we're trapped in an advanced illusion array.
Yes.
Another illusion array?
Yes.
Du Xiaofu frowned. Only now did he realize that the door through which the two of them had just entered had disappeared. They were once again trapped in the illusory array, but he didn't feel anything at all. This showed how powerful this illusory array was. The arrays in this burial deathland are all ancient arrays, and there are very few of them outside. It's very difficult to break them.
Yes.
Lu Limo's beautiful eyes were dignified. This illusion array was extremely advanced, and she admitted that she wouldn't be able to break it. Even the sacred palace didn't have many detailed descriptions of such ancient arrays. When Du Xiaofu heard this, his eyes became even more dignified. It wouldn't be good if they were trapped in here. Now, they could only think of a way out. After carefully searching the entire square for several hours, Du Xiaofu still couldn't find a way out. No matter what, he couldn't leave the palace. In the palace, mysterious runes flickered and changed unpredictably. It seems that we're really trapped here. Lu Limo revealed a faint, bitter smile and said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and didn't say anything. His gaze suddenly focused on a stone pillar in front of the palace. His gaze changed as he slowly walked over and carefully examined it. Then, Du Xiaofu looked at the second stone pillar not far away. His eyes slightly twitched, and he took a deep breath. Did you find anything? Seeing this, Lu Limo asked. If I'm not wrong, this illusion array should be the same as the 9-9 confusion array that we came in from. It's just that there are some changes. Du Xiaofu said softly. Hearing this, Lu Limo immediately revealed a joyful expression and asked, Is there a way to break the array? I'll try, but be careful. Gesturing for Lu Li to be more careful, Du Xiaofu began to break the 9-revolution maze array, according to the method he used to break the 9-revolution maze array. However, he was also quite nervous in his heart. He did not know if there would be any danger after breaking the 9-revolution maze array this time. However, the two of them didn't seem to have any other choice. They could only break the illusion array first. Hand seals condensed from Du Xiaofu's hands. Mysterious runes flickered as Du Xiaofu's feet moved unpredictably. Lu Limo followed closely behind. In just a moment, Du Xiaofu's figure shuttled back and forth. When he reached the side of the 99th stone pillar, Du Xiaofu took the last step. As Du Xiaofu's foot landed, the square suddenly shook with a loud bang. Boom! Boom! The entire palace shook. A majestic aura spread out, as if it was about to collapse. Be careful! Boom! Du Xiaofu lightly shouted. His profound chi surged and his whole body was on guard. Everything inside was extremely strange, and he had to be on guard. Chi! Chi! At this moment, the entire square shook. Under the vigilant gazes of the two, everything around them disappeared in an instant. Then, what appeared in front of them was a huge ancient stone chamber. Chi! Looking at the ancient stone chamber, Du Xiaofu's gaze trembled. His face was suddenly filled with shock. The stone chamber was surrounded by a bronze color. It was unknown how long it had existed, but it was filled with an ancient and desolate aura. In the center of the stone chamber, Du Xiaofu's gaze was focused on an extremely skinny body. It was unknown how long this body had existed. At this moment, it was all skin and bones. Its messy long hair was like a spider web. A loose gray robe covered its body like a long skirt, as if it was covered with spider webs. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was shocked by the aura of this skinny body. At the edge of this skinny body, there was a layer of invisible spatial ripples that constantly swayed. It made one's primordial spirit feel pain. One's entire body would feel a huge and majestic pressure. What a strong pressure! Chi! Du Xiaofu's gaze trembled. This pressure was so strong that it made one's primordial spirit tremble. One's profound chi and the primordial spirit in one's mind would definitely be affected. Du Xiaofu could clearly feel this aura. It was just a skeleton, but it had a pressure that was not much weaker than Huolei Laozu. The remains of an ancient almighty, Du Xiaofu exclaimed. The aura of this body was too strong. The skeleton in front of him should be the remains of an ancient almighty. At this moment, Lu Limo was also shocked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise as she felt the majestic aura of this body.